All right, we'll call this meeting to order. This is a budget workshop meeting of the Flagler Beach City Commission. Today is Thursday, August 6th. Time is 5:30 p.m. And how this meeting is going to flow is we're going to try to get through all items, but if we cannot get everything done by the 8:30 cutoff, it will be continued to August 10th, 2026. Mayor, if you could lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, and we're going to follow that by a moment of silence to honor our veterans, members of the armed forces, and first responders.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Sorry. All right, while everybody's getting settled, if you could take a minute to look at your cell phones and make sure they are on silent vibrator or turned off, please. And City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to start off and at least review the documents that were provided to you following last night's meeting. So you should have received email that I sent earlier today that had 3 attachments. It had the presentation from last night, it had the email from the Corps of Engineers, and it also had the personnel count. In that same email, I indicated that I had reached out to Miss Karen Tenuto from the Humane Society. I did not hear back from her today, but I did send the email to her asking for information about contributions and costs associated with the rest of Flagler County. What was handed to you this evening were 3 other documents, the breakdown of the miscellaneous revenue and other funding sources, the budgetary splits by position, and then the year-to-date report as of July 31st, 2026. So that's the most current information. So hopefully we've at least provided you with the information on. Is there anything that we did not provide to you that we need to get to you still?
I think one of the pieces of information we were needing was what that lower medical insurance number was total for the city or something like that.
Okay, we actually have that. That is on the miscellaneous revenue. So what, in the process of the ongoing review of the medical insurance, Ms. Mathis has come to be aware of the fact that there may be some unintended ramifications of employer-provided health care for you. If you're in the marketplace, there creates a whole variety of perhaps tax implications and other issues if you're taking marketplace insurance and now you have the opportunity provided employer-provided insurance. So staff is going to look at that, and what we've programmed in on the sheet that is headed the 26-27 budget, the miscellaneous revenue sheet. We did drop the healthcare savings, healthcare costs from 20% to 15%, and that's just to keep a little buffer for the time being until we actually get a firm proposal from one of the providers that we're dealing with. So that was incorporated into where we stand on the pluses and the minuses based upon last night's discussion. So that savings, dropping it from 20 to 15%, was approximately $90,000 worth of savings. $64,000 of it in the general fund, and the other is scattered through the other funds, the CRA, the building fund, utility, sanitation, and stormwater.
So the general fund, you're looking at about 64, you said?
Correct.
Okay. Because that's important for us to keep in mind when we're looking at moving stuff around.
And I think the other thing we looked at, we did up the, was that indicated about the $100,000 back to the Dune walkover. So we're still, at least with those 2 items, we're still a little short because we added an extra $100,000 to the budget in the general fund, and we just took out $64,000. So, but staff will continue to monitor that as we make changes and adjustments. The budget will again continue to evolve between now and the September meetings, especially based upon your direction and other information that Ms. Allen and I get, state shared revenue, things like that. Other changes get finalized, whether we sign up with the healthcare plans. We're working on putting together a spreadsheet for you to show, because these are the documents that we're currently reviewing for healthcare insurance. There's like 40 pages here. And the plans there's a myriad of the plans that'd be like, okay, if you change the deductible from 1,000 to 1,500, so on and so forth. So we're trying to put together a spreadsheet that shows only the base rate, the most bare bones, employer-provided coverage for 3 or 4 of the plans that we're looking at, so that we can share that with you and get a better understanding, or you can have a better understanding of what the plans that we're looking at. So there's Cigna, Sidecar, United Healthcare, and Florida plans. So we'll work on getting that spreadsheet to you, showing what the various options are, but that's taking a little more time to pull together. But you'll get that before any decision is made.
Wasn't there also additional savings if commissioners did not want insurance on top of that 90, or was that included in that?
Correct. I think we budgeted for 3. The reason we budgeted 3 was because there was a parent, and I'm not sure who all, I think Ms. Mathis has spoken with all of you, that the preliminary indication was that 2 of you would be interested, and then the assumption would be that if 2 people are elected in March, 2 half-year, because it wouldn't be on the coverage until April, so 2 half years would equal 1 full year. So that's why we've adjusted the budget for 3 commissioners to take medical benefits, and we're still working on what the cost of those benefits will be. But we did adjust it to 3 based upon conversations with you last night.
All right, and that was included in the 90. All right, and we left off at page 20. Before we jump into that, was there any questions or comments about pending things from yesterday that we needed to talk about? And you guys are good on your end?
Yes, sir.
All right, we'll jump right in.
Plenty of changes to keep coming, so.
Yeah. All right.
All right, roads and streets, page 20. Questions from the mayor. I think, again, we've addressed the salary, retirement, health insurance, workers' comp. So if we jump down to contractual services, that was, let's see, so one of the things that staff has been looking at, I think in part to your desire to improve the look of downtown, is actually, we first looked at buying a street sweeper, but instead we're looking at renting a street sweeper on a monthly or quarterly basis. So that's what that is right there. We'd have to, we've gotten 2 proposals right now, and we're looking at, is it quarterly, is it monthly, and this is just within the downtown area. We're not going all the way down to Commissioner Spradley's house or Mayor King's house. It's primarily downtown. We have reached out also to FDOT to see if they would be willing to contribute to having the street sweeper sweep the bridge as well. So that's the bulk of that contractual services under roads and streets. Telecommunications, we're continuing to add tablets and cell phones for city staff. A lot of city staff did not have those. Vehicle repairs and maintenance, we do have an aging fleet. With the removal of the facilities truck, I believe the only vehicle being scheduled to add this year is an additional vehicle for the meter reader. So there are no vehicle replacements scheduled for building department, roads and streets, utility maintenance. So we're adding just the 1 vehicle this year. And then gasoline and diesel fuel, just the ongoing cost of fuel continues to rise.
All right, questions or comments about roads and streets, page 20? Commissioner Santori.
Yes, on the repairs and maintenance of roadways, I noticed in 24-25 it was around $12,000, and this current year it was amended down from 120 to 50, and then proposed a 70K, so what is the reasoning behind not reaching the previous numbers, and do you think we're going to be able to hit the 70K this year?
So the difference between the original budget and the amended budget,
Put your mic in a little bit. Thank you.
so the difference between the amended budget and the original budget, we had capital projects that anything over $5,000 needs to reside in the capital fund. So we transferred dollars from the original budget, which was strictly repairs and maintenance, over to the capital fund. So if you look at the capital fund, you'll see that the budget for that particular line item is increased.
Did that answer your question?
It did, thanks.
All right, Commissioner Cunningham.
What street lighting are we doing for 94,000? Because I'm seeing in the 5-year plan, CRA for decorative street lamp replacement for $200,000 this year, but I didn't see it on the CRA earlier yesterday when we went through it anywhere. Explain that.
The street lighting is part of the city's agreement with FDOT to maintain the street lights along both Moody Boulevard, State Route 100, and A1A. We're in the process of discussions with FDOT to have FDOT take over the entirety of the lights on Moody Boulevard.
Yeah, I thought we dropped that. We didn't drop that?
No, it's still in, they've indicated it's been an ongoing discussion. Because our assessment is that the lights along Moody Boulevard are beyond their useful life and they actually need to be replaced. And the city's like, for the amount of money you're paying us to maintain those, we can't maintain them for that. So the state has indicated preliminarily that they will take over all the streetlight maintenance along Moody Boulevard from A1A all the way out to Wadsworth Park. And then that leaves only the streetlights along A1A for the city to maintain.
Other questions you got, Commissioner Cunningham?
So that's the 94,000 for street lighting under roads and streets,
Yes, sir.
and what's the 200,000 for CRA decorative street lamp replacement?
Those are the decorative lamps that are only in place in the CRA.
So I didn't see that in the CRA budget.
I don't think we've gotten to the CRA budget yet.
Yeah, that's coming up, because I have comments about that too.
That's it.
Okay, Commissioner Sherman?
Yeah, you mentioned fleet maintenance. Where am I missing something on the line here where you mentioned that that you were going to purchase a vehicle? Is that what no?
No, under vehicle repairs and maintenance?
Okay,
No, we're not purchasing a vehicle
Okay.
this year. I'm sorry.
okay. I just want to make sure because I had some talking points on that. But all right, that's it, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, any other questions on page 20, roads and streets? All right, moving on, 21.
Page 21 is the library. Questions from the mayor included membership, subscription, and dues. Basically, the cost of our access to the cloud library, which according to Ms. Parrish is very well utilized. That has increased, and we actually had an initial year $500 credit, which has expired. So that accounts for the increase of the membership dues and that. Membership dues and subscriptions, and then equipment. All 3 computers in the library are scheduled for replacement in the coming year.
All right, questions on this page? The only question I had, so when you mention when computers are scheduled to be replaced, is that need-based, or is that, and this doesn't apply to the library, this is just in general. I mean, do we just replace computers every so often?
Yes, and I'm not sure if Mr. Emerson wants to comment on that, but yeah, we have a scheduled replacement for office equipment.
So I guess my question is, if it works, why replace it?
The replacement schedule is between when the warranty expires and when the computers generally go out after that. So we have enough spares on hand. If one goes out, it can be easily replaced. They're surplus ones, they're non-repairable.
And do you, I mean, if we do that, are we gonna find ourselves with, I guess, I don't know. I'm not a computer expert, but I don't replace my computer until something happens to it, or it's super outdated. It's not a ton of money, but I think across the organization, it adds up. I just am confused by the rationale of, well, what is the year replacement that we replace computers?
5 years.
Is that the standard depreciation?
That's above for most organizations. Most organizations replace in 3 years.
What were you saying?
We don't work without them.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. Okay.
Something on this. This fiscal year, we were scheduled to replace 2, but one is a barely ever used computer that is a public computer that's our just in case somebody needs it computer. So we took that out and did not replace that. It happens that however it worked out this way, the 3 that are in this budget are mine and the 2 main public computers that are used all the time. So based on my conversation with Daniel, I didn't really feel as if I had a choice but to stick with the schedule.
Right. Okay. Commissioner Santori?
I mean, so the computers you have now are approaching 5 years old?
Yes.
And what is as far as updates, I assume they're running Windows and,
They're all running Windows 11. The reason we have almost no spares in the city right now is we had to perform updates to comply with state law to be on Windows 11. So many of the computers in the city were unable to be upgraded or.
All right. Any other comments or thoughts on page 21? The only other thing I had is I noticed in this year, you didn't have any repairs or maintenance scheduled. I know there's a capital project you had listed, but I would assume based on just operating and the age of the building, you would have some repairs.
We
throughout the year.
transferred all of the, we
It's under
briefly
FM?
discussed this, right.
Yeah.
Briefly discussed it yesterday. All the repairs and maintenance are moved to the facilities department.
All right. That makes sense. All right. Any other questions? Page 22.
There were no apparent questions on this from either the mayor or Commissioner Sherman.
Any questions on this or comments? Can you refresh us with what memberships and subscription dues is for the museum?
That's our yearly support payment to the museum itself. Gold level sponsorship, yeah.
Okay. Membership. All right. Got it. I didn't know what subscription we had to it or something. All right. Any other questions for that? All right. Page 23.
Again, the standard question, or what's become the standard about the FICA and Medicare, and then Commissioner Sherman's question, which we started to address yesterday, was the fireworks, cost for the 4th of July fireworks. And again, that's just the contractual services for the shooting of the fireworks themselves.
All right. Questions or comments on Parks and Rec? Commissioner Spradley.
Yes, concerning lifeguard, junior lifeguard salary, 11,300 down to 5,000. What's the rationale for that?
It was made just based on historical trends. You can see back in 24, 25, we only spent like $5,600. And, well, it's hard to look at right now because we're still in the midst of summer. So, like I said, it's based on historical trends where we actually see the coding. Like if you look at the other salaries and wages, which is for the lifeguards, That basically went up because that's where a majority of the expense was getting coded.
I'm not following that. Maybe it's just me, but it went from 3,700 in 2024 to 11,300 in 2025, and now down to 5,000. I'm just trying to understand the rationale.
I think you need to look at both the junior lifeguard salary line and the other salaries and wages line together.
Okay. All right.
Is that better?
It does.
Explanation? Okay.
That helps. Thank you.
And again, just as it wasn't significant on this line, but when it came time for me to review the budget request and find $500,000 to cut, yeah, sometimes it's easy to find the $150,000 lines, but I gotta find a lot of lines where it's 15,000, can I cut it to 5, or 10,000, can I cut it to 5? And that's where I rely on Miss Allen to say, all right, let's go back and see what some of the historical data is. And yeah, this is all part in some ways of tightening the belt and finding the money that we've got to find to reasonably balance the budget.
And one other question while I'm talking here. Are you okay with the gasoline budget going down from last year?
Yeah, I think that was again based upon some of the historic data. I'm trying to find and look up the page where we are for year to date that we just gave to you. Yeah, when you look at junior lifeguard salaries, to your point, Commissioner Spradley, we're just barely over $3,000.
Okay.
And gasoline, yeah, we're year to date we've only spent $1,000.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions, anybody?
As a small reminder, when we spoke about the county contribution for fireworks, I did ask Mr. Mengel, and he did indicate that the county, what he has put in his proposed budget, is the continuing contribution from the county for the lifeguards. That was in their proposed budget, but we'll see how that comes. But that was included, the $110,000 for lifeguards. That is included in their proposed budget.
Okay, can you take us through promotional activities? What all is in that line? I know you got some movie stuff and First Friday stuff, I think.
Yep, that's pretty much it.
And First Friday band is $500 a month, and then for sponsorships that Vern basically bills us back for, any licensed store or restaurant within the city, the commission had approved that will pay their fee, which is his bill normally is around $2,000 a month.
The reason why I bring that up is I'm the critical guy, and I'll be the one to say it. I don't know if First Friday is pulling its own weight. We are not seeing the business in the downtown sector. We're seeing the people. They all go to Veterans Park, the city pays to put on a show, and then they leave. Right. So it's $40,000. I'll just say it. I am of the view that it is not accomplishing its intended purpose, and I would question whether it is wise to continue in the capacity it is. Now, if another, it's a double-edged sword. If people want First Friday to continue and you want somebody else to take it over, say David Ayers, then he brings in all these outside vendors, and I don't think you're any worse off, but you're not accomplishing what the goal of First Friday was. So no matter what, I think First Friday, as it stands right now, is not, and to nobody's fault. It's just this is the way the macro things are going. It's not. I am of the opinion it's not accomplishing its goal. I don't know if this is a good idea to do for $40,000, but I'll let y'all throw some opinions out there.
I'll go after you.
Well, my opinion is it should stay. To me, eliminating First Friday because of cost concerns is down the list. I think other alternatives should be explored. You know, whether it's getting different and better sponsorship, but I feel that it's widely appreciated by the community, even those who bring their own food or go home and eat dinner. It's something that's very much appreciated. So to me, the solution that should be looked at is another way to cover cost, with elimination of it being a last resort. Thanks.
Yeah, I'd like to hear, maybe this might be something over the course of this next fiscal year to maybe have our crab board look into it as well, see what their thoughts are. I mean, we got a lot of business owners on there and kind of get some of the feedback from, I'd be okay keeping it around another year, and with the pier coming in and things, the city's going to look a lot different, but I'd like to just kind of look into it to see, what their thoughts are, and, kind of get more feedback from the local businesses. I mean, they're pretty quiet. They don't typically come up to us and let us know, but I think it would be good to get a pulse of what what Commissioner Cooley said. The whole intention of this was to, get people to go out throughout the downtown district and support the businesses. And, I try to get out on a First Friday and do that, but when you look around, there's not a lot of maybe bleed over outside Veterans Park, which was the intention to promote, the businesses and get people to go and patronize that area. So that would be one of my challenges maybe for you this coming year, would be to have the crab board explore that and get some of their feedback and bring it back to us at a later date.
And that has been discussed at the crab board, and as expected, the feelings are divided. There are some businesses that say that it negatively impacts their business in that they have regulars that patronize their businesses, and they can't come, so they just don't come to town. So that was Miss Romero from Tuscany. She says her regulars just, nobody comes because they can't find a parking spot, because all the people come to First Friday, take up all the parking, and it's not convenient to get to her restaurant. Mr. Bula from the hotel says he sees no, and Miss Ryan, if I misspeak, but I think he's indicated that he sees no impact on the hotel. I know Mr. Meyer is supportive just because it adds to the vitality of town, I think, from his perspective. Mr. Marlowe from Golden Lion sees no, if I remember correctly, he sees no significant uptick in his business at the Golden Lion or at next door. I think those are the business owners that are on the crab board. So I think from a business perspective, from their perspective, it is a minimal impact. They said, because if you pointed out, people haul their chairs, their coolers, their things, and then when they're done with the show, show ends at 9 o'clock. And how are they going to carry their chairs and coolers and stuff to go to the pizza place or Oceanside? How many more places are open after 9 o'clock anyway? But I think it's a valid, again, it's a tradition that, believe me, I wasn't going to put it in, city manager wasn't going to cut First Friday, but I think there are concerns. We've talked about, the long-term relationship between the city and the radio station as well. So I think we need to look at all that. But I think the crab board, I think the interest in First Friday is due to bringing people to town. It's different than I think and I wasn't here when First Friday started, but I think the intent might have been you want people to come to town to support the businesses. And maybe we cut out, because as Miss Allen said, about a year or two ago, in order to encourage city brick and mortar businesses to establish a booth or a presence at First Friday, we covered their fee, and I think we can cover up to 10 or 20 of them.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So whether you want to eliminate that subsidy, that saves our costs and puts the burden, but again, that's your call.
Yeah, and just to be clear, I'm not anti First Friday, but I do think it needs looked at, and if it is a viable thing, and it's a nice thing, it's tradition, it's good, but I only worry about having our taxpayers fund $40,000 for First Friday when not everybody gets a benefit. I think talking to, Vern and the organizer about, that exact thing, say, look, we're all about helping with First Friday, helping balance costs, but not carrying this right now. This isn't, I don't think it's a political climate for it. Mayor, what's your thoughts?
It's a tough one because it is such a tradition for our community. I can remember back when the radio station did have total control and they did all of it, and we were just like, here's the park, here's the electric, go. I'm not quite sure why that shifted from the radio station to city/Vern and how that worked out. I'd hate to see it go away, but I think we, as the city, need to really think about our subsidies. Are they truly only for city businesses, or are we subsidizing anyone who comes in for First Friday?
No, it was specifically identified as solely for city brick and mortar businesses.
Okay. Food trucks, ice vendor, it kind of has shifted and changed and morphed over the years, so I think looking at it this next year and totally revamping it is well warranted.
Or just eliminate the city paying Vern full price for the sponsorship of a local business. We've been doing that for what, 2 years now?
It's been
Or
7
more?
years. Yeah, you remember when we first started, and Penny, you probably remember, the whole goal was, and this is early on in my tenure up here, was that we wanted to bring it back to the grassroots of here in Flagler Beach. And, we didn't want the car, remember it was like the Ford dealership over in Palm Coast Ford, having their, this is a little bit before you, they'd have their furniture. Yeah, it's like massive. It was an eyesore when you come over and you see this, car in the middle of Veterans Park. They were promoting their car dealership. And I know the goal of bringing it in-house to Vern was to go back to the original intent of First Friday being like a, again, Flagler Beach-esque and not really a lot of outside entities. And I know we were doing that to incentivize. Sounds like we are getting the, the local business support now of like people promoting their businesses that are within the confines of Flagler Beach. But I did have one follow-on question about, you have $38,000 here. Now, does that account for wages? I know we always have, obviously, we have to have our first responders out there for that as well. Is there extra personnel for that? Is there any extra staffing that's not accounted in this $38,000?
We don't have the extra staff assigned for that. We don't upsize or enhance the police or fire coverage for that.
Okay, that's all I have.
Well, if the city, based off what I just heard from Penny, if the city was to not reimburse Vern covering the costs of the $2,000 that get maxed out every month of city reimbursement for city merchants to be there, you're taking $24,000 right off that. Now you're at a reasonable number. That's easily doable for a First Friday, and I don't think any taxpayer would have an issue with that. Because you do have to invest something in quality of life and to have a thriving city, but came off as a little high to me, and with everything that's going on, I'm not sure we're going about it the right way. So I think we will at the end.
Also, for the police officer at every event, sanitation maintenance person, for routine trash and cleanup, and fire department personnel. So that's just what we said we would do.
So where are you at? Are you guys good with the number the way it is? Do you want to give direction to look at options, or what do you want to do, Mayor?
I think we keep it where it is now, and this next year, let's do an overhaul of the whole program and see, come next year's budget, the reduction or how it can be restructured. We might be restructuring everything. Who knows what next year brings. But that gives everybody, Vern, the city, everybody a year to reformulate it, but keep it.
Okay. Other thoughts? Mr. Santori?
Yeah, the subsidize it definitely hurts. Maybe we can reduce it by half this year, and it still gives, gives them a few months to try to figure that out. And overall, I've always enjoyed the event, and it's always been a good opportunity. I know when I was campaigning to speak with the residents, and now as an elected official, it's when I probably talk to them the most. But it'd be great. And maybe we should have a workshop to see how we can monetize it more.
Probably.
Yeah, I mean, either one of those alternatives, either to leave it as it is for this year or reduce the cost by half. I mean, I don't have a strong feeling towards either one, but to use this year to re-examine it. It's a complicated, not in a negative way, but it's a sort of a complex issue because, yes, you have business owners that part of the intention of Good Friday is to enhance their business, and it's working in some cases, clearly not working in others. But that's not the whole story. The story is it is a community event. It's a lifestyle event, and there's so many people here, residents who go to the event, may not patronize business, but you can't discount them and just end it. So I like the idea of taking a good look at it, whether it's a workshop, and I'm neutral on whether to leave the budget the same or reduce it some amount this year. Thanks.
Mr. Chairman, one thing that, again, I haven't been here for it, but you have, what is the impact of the pier being open going to have on not just First Friday, but the community? So again, I've never been here when the pier was open, so I don't know what it was like, if it made a difference when the pier was open and you had First Friday. I don't know, but obviously that's going to change the dynamics a lot in downtown when the pier reopens.
I can't recall a specific impact, pier versus First Friday. Early mornings, yes, but in the evenings, not so much. I don't think that'll have any impact.
Except for events, having events
Well,
on the
we
pier
wouldn't
was a
want
big deal.
Event on the pier on a First Friday. That would be insanity.
Sure.
Yeah, I'd be okay with keeping it for a year, like to Commissioner Bradley's point, just to but over this course of the year, have a workshop, let's re-examine these things. And I think, some of the conversations I've even had with Mr. Martin is, we've got the promenade, or not the promenade, but the, we'll have another massive gathering area on the other side of the bridge when, we break ground over there. And maybe that's something that we look to, maybe re-examine, maybe having First Friday events over there in the district where, Mr. Belshie's, commercial area will be in the future. Just a thought, but I think that, it might not be next year that happens. It might be, something we look at, 3-4 years down the road. But I think over the course of this year, we definitely should have some conversations about First Friday and with the pier reopening and, just the whole aesthetics of the city kind of changing quite a bit when that pier reopens.
Commissioner Cunningham.
I wouldn't want to eliminate First Friday altogether, but I don't like the idea of subsidizing it either. I mean, I don't think taxpayers would like that either. They'd probably like to see that come off of maybe their utilities or something.
I think what we can do is we can look at the invoices. I think when they're submitted, I think it identifies who is getting the subsidies from the city, and that may not be the type of business you want, or it may be, but we can look at who is actually the companies or the local businesses that are being subsidized and share that with you, and that may provide some additional insight to help you make your decision.
Well, it looks like what I heard is a strong consensus for, number one, leaving it alone this year, and number two, this being a discussion item as the year progresses. Because I'm hearing it does need looked at, but not this budget cycle.
With it happening every month, we can find a way to give you a monthly report after each First Friday and see what's out there.
Right. And I think, you or staff will need to meet with the provider and find out how to eliminate the financial burden on the city. All right, what other questions or comments we got on page 23? Page 24.
These are the revenues for the capital fund. and I didn't have any questions posed by the mayor or Commissioner Sherman.
Any comments from up here? Page 25.
Well, I do, one. The transfers from building, the 56,000, is that money getting transferred out of building
Correct,
to
and most,
somewhere else?
correct, but most
I
likely.
know we had a surplus of money left over in there that, well, we had to reduce our inspection or permit fees, 75%.
Correct, but that project will most likely be removed from the building fund and funded entirely, through the, general fund, and that's for the work to be done in this building, the audio and visual upgrades.
Thought you couldn't use that fund only for,
Correct,
Building
that's why,
part.
that's why that is not gonna take place, that $56,000, that's part of the revisions that are ongoing, so we're gonna pull that out as a transfer. That will not happen.
out of the building department's budget
Correct.
and put it where?
No, it'll stay in the building department's budget. It's not gonna be transferred from the building department to the capital fund.
That's what it says here on my sheet. Transfer from BCI, 56,000.
So because the capital fund is totally separate fund from general fund, CRA, and, the building fund, any capital projects that are associated with the CRA as well as the building fund, we transfer funds from the building fund itself over to the capital fund to fund those projects. So that's what these transfers are. So if you look on page 25, any capital project for either the CRA or the building fund are offset with the revenue that's coming from those specific funds.
Our new building official is here, right?
I'm sorry, sir.
The new I'm sure you can expand on what can and can't be done out of that fund, can't you? I mean, 'cause that's law.
Glenn Clark, Chief Billing Official. So there's a number of things that you can utilize those funds for, and it's part of the Florida statute. And you do have direct and indirect costs associated with running the department. So if you have a building that's designated to the building department, which that's where we're at over the WIC line. So if we have repairs and maintenance that need to be done to the building that houses the building department, you can utilize funds for that as written in the Florida statute. So you can.
WIC line houses part of the building department? The WIC line center?
Yeah, so
Building?
us over at the WIC line center, half of it is pretty much us. But then also, of course, code enforcement's coming over with us as well. So anything associated with our operations would be able to utilize funds as far as per the Florida statute.
Let me clarify things, because we were trying to say the same thing. As your document shows, yes, that is a transfer from the building fund to the capital fund. That project, though, is not gonna happen because after consulting with the attorney, yeah, you can't use it, because that project was related to upgrading the audio and visual system here in City Hall, in part because magistrate code enforcement hearings happen here, which now code enforcement is part of the building department. But there's too many leaps to make to tie it directly to building code enforcement. So that's why that project, that transfer, even though it's showing there, is not going to happen. We're withdrawing that from the budget.
So what we're seeing is not accurate. Is that what you're saying?
Correct.
Okay. That's all I got.
So, when this is all done, either tonight or Monday, we would get a new,
Oh, absolutely.
like
That-
usual,
This is
revised
a,
package.
this is a living document, and there are gonna be things that change as we ongoing. So, things will be changed based upon your input. As we get more information, things change and all that. So, yes.
All right. Other questions about page 24? Page 25.
I had several questions from Commissioner Sherman. So he asked about facility park improvements, and the anticipated efforts for that are for Silver Lake Park and other parks around town, but primarily Silver Lake Park. I think the commission has expressed interest, the Parks Committee's expressed interest in moving forward with enhancing and restoring Silver Lake Park. That's outlined. Library interior renovations, that is to do some reconfiguration of their office space, which they don't have any, so it's to reconfigure the circulation desk area and provide some dedicated office space for the library employees. The police lobby rehabilitation is primarily for safety and security. Right now, you don't have appropriate lines of sight according to the chief of police, and there's not enough security in that open lobby when people come in. And then the beach vehicles, that $25,000, we're interested in starting reserve for that, $10,000 for a jet ski and $15,000 for an ATV.
All right, Commissioner Sherman. Yeah, do you mind divulging a little bit more on the, well, I forgot to mention this one too. I would like some clarification on the $75,000 for the Wayfinder sign, so I'll start from the top there, and then, I don't mean, if anybody else wants to jump in, I don't mean to take anything from anybody else.
Go one commissioner at a time.
Okay, so can you address to me what exactly the $75,000 for the Wayfinder signs is going to be? And
That's using CRA funds.
correct.
And that's what the CRA advisory board, we used to have the wayfinding
Right.
signs around town. Well, this is a new program to restore or create a new wayfinding element
Right.
with $75,000. That'll pay for the manufacture and production of the wayfinding signs, and then there would be, in turn, a charge revenue from the businesses. If they want to buy a sign that says Bradley's Law Office this way, he'll have to pay an annual fee for that on the wayfinding sign. So there'll be a corresponding revenue to that.
Okay. I was just thinking thinking of some beautification, maybe that could have been used for beautification purposes, or, I understand that the Wayfinder signs could be for, one could say they would be improvements.
I'm sorry, I couldn't.
I understand, the Wayfinder signs, and I for promoting the businesses within the CRA district, but gosh, I'd like to see some, more beautification throughout the CRA, and maybe, I don't know if, 75,000 is what need be for it, go for it, but I was just thinking of some improvements, around the CRA district as far as, like, the blight we're responsible for.
Well, while you're on wayfinding signs, do we have any type of data or anything about it, like, businesses are going to pay into this, right? Is this program going to be funded? Or is this going to be, the city's going to be paying $50,000 plus for wayfinding signs, and then we're going to get a small, minute return back on wayfinding signs?
I think this is just a preliminary effort, that the intent is that it will be once the city purchases like the post, but the signs will be paid for by the businesses, and it'll be self-sustaining by the businesses. This has been a topic of conversation at the CRA Advisory Board for several months.
Mr. Spradley?
I think it's a great idea. I've been here 20-something years, and there have been times when they have been uniformly maintained and look very nice, serve a good purpose. There's been other times when they look horrible. But yeah, if the goal is to find a way for the businesses to fund them, once they're installed, I for one would be very interested in that. I think it's very good. But to me, it just seemed like there was no one attentive to that. They just deteriorated over the years, and then suddenly became worse than not having them at all. That's all.
Mr. Santori?
Yes, with the wayfinding signs, I mean, I would like to see the the data behind it that shows that the businesses will commit to putting their information on there first, because I know a few businesses here that are notoriously rather cheap with, putting that advertisement money out. And, you look around, you see most people kind of glued to their phones anyway, and it has their GPS maps on it. So, other than finding a city restroom, I'm not sure the usefulness of it unless the businesses are willing to pay and help fund it.
You brought up finding a city restroom. Good luck. Okay, what you got, Mayor?
The previous wayfinding program was, and correct me if I'm wrong, was sold out. Every sign was taken and supported by local businesses. We had a waiting list. So the previous program worked great. The new program is going to enable QR codes so people can take their cell phone and figure out exactly where they're going without having to go through Google and other issues. It brings a uniformity to our city. It brings a walkability that we don't currently have. People are in their phones. They're not looking at our beautiful city. I think it's a great program, and I think it'll be self-sustaining after the initial boards go up, but keeping it all uniform is a great program.
Here's a suggestion. What if that program goes forward if you hit a X percentage of commitments from businesses? So if that program can't get, say, 3/4 funded, then it doesn't move forward, or something like that.
I fear with doing that is that confuses our businesses. It's either, yes, it's going to happen, and then we go back and say, no, now it's not going to happen. When the signs were removed, I know a lot of the businesses were like, what's going on? I didn't get my bill this year. What happened to my sign? That would be my only concern. And given the history of it being sold out in a strong program, I don't think that's going to be an issue with it, in all honesty. But again, that was just history in my point of view.
We do have a CRA advisory board meeting scheduled for Monday, so we can share your apparent concerns with it and see what the feedback is from the CRA advisory board.
Commissioner Cunningham?
Yeah, the Veterans Park improvement is $50,000. That's not gonna get you much. To me, that's a centerpiece of town, and that should be taken care of and looking good all the time, and it doesn't. $50,000 is gonna fix all that. I know you were having somebody doing some renderings of.
Correct. Now, remember, the CRA dollars cannot be used for maintenance. So this is just for the improvements. What we're looking at to start with is the irrigation system and the electrical system. And then we can use other park improvement monies for other components of Veterans Park once we decide what is the community's desire for Veterans Park.
We're getting a brand new pier and the walkway and the restrooms and all that, and Veterans Park looks like a dump, to be blunt. That's it.
All right. So we got off topic of the wayfinding signs. What is kind of our consensus? Are we good with it? Is that all right? That's what I'm hearing. Okay. What else did you have? Because we're on
the police lobby rehab. I just wanted to get a better understanding. I think Mr. Martin gave us a little bit of a rundown on it. I know that I know things evolve, but I just wanted to know, $50,000. What is it? What exactly is it? Could you elaborate a little bit more as to the need for this? I mean, it seems as though again, I'm ignorant to some of these things, but as far as security controls go, I mean, it's probably one of the more secure buildings that we have here in town. Correct me if I'm wrong. I've only been over there once or twice.
and that's the problem. We're asking to make a decision for $50,000 based on no information. We've heard lines of sight need improvement. What are you all doing to it?
So there is more to that than just lines of sight. So number one, we have outgrown that police department by leaps and bounds. We do not have room in there. I would describe our police department more like a doctor's office than a police department. It is not secure. The wall that's between the lobby and the back, it doesn't go to the ceiling. It's a hollow door. If anybody were to come in there and just pull on it, you can get through. It's not secure for our civilians. Excuse me. So what the chief wants to do is put a wall, and it's kind of hard to describe without actually being inside the building, from where the window is now to the south. Can you picture that inside our building? From the window to the south. Does that make sense?
Mm.
Yeah.
That'll create more room, and he wants to use a ballistic glass and block wall to make it more secure and more room.
Okay. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you. I just needed a little bit more clarification. You know, I know you guys have sensitive stuff back there, and you know,
Yeah, it's not
anybody
secure.
walking back there, I
It
understand
is not
that.
secure at all. And I hate saying that in open forum, but
It's understood.
Y'all got guns in there, right?
we do. The guns are secure in a secure room, but to get back into the back offices, anybody can just walk by and pull that door open.
I had one more question. On the restamping the crosswalks, where did this number come from? How was it?
I think that was based upon previous, contracts for that, but I think on some of the discussions we've had, is that money will be repurposed for, pursuing the bathrooms and the other parking lot improvements instead of stamping the crosswalks.
Okay, that's completely different than what this says then.
Correct, that's why we have these discussions.
That's it.
Other questions on page 25?
The beach vehicles, you know, I know you mentioned you're a jet ski, and what else did you say that you're?
ATV.
ATV. How, I mean, you know, of course we want to make sure if somebody's drowning, you know, and they're way out to sea, we want to make sure that we have something to be able to, some sort of apparatus to, you know, get somebody. But how often are we utilizing these jet skis now? And, you know, I mean, because are they being used, or are they just sitting there, you know, collecting dust? I mean, I know we had a boat years ago that, I don't even, behind the fire department that just, I didn't even know we had a boat, you know, and I don't think we ever used it. I just, you know, again, just trying to, two. Okay, so yeah, again, I'm just trying to, you know, be sure that we're not overspending. I'm not trying to pick this thing apart. Just, you know, again, we're just trying to be good.
Right, well, this is intended to start a reserve for when we do need it. I think Mr. Gillen does a good job of maintaining equipment and not buying any before it's time. But I don't think we bought a jet ski or a ATV in a reasonable amount of time, but it's starting the reserve for that equipment.
But on your capital plan, you had a replacement jet ski, if I remember right. This is going deep into the capital plan. It was like every 3 years. Yeah,
Correct.
you're showing to be purchasing a jet ski every 3 years.
That's just part of the planning, whether it's actually executed or not. I think it's been in there before, and at Mr. Gillen's recommendation, we haven't purchased them.
Right. So I think it gets used about once every 3 years. Because that thing barely hits the water.
Again, if you want to cut it out of the budget, you know, this is your budget.
Well, you know, I don't want to jump on you.
No, you got it. You got it.
Replacing stuff just to replace it seems to be what the norm is. And I really think that we need to be more mindful of that process. This is why for as long as I've been up here, I've been screaming about we need to be having a professionally managed fleet program. And because I fundamentally don't agree with it.
But I would object to that. We're not replacing for the sake of replacing. This is to establish a reserve, and just because something is in the capital plan when it moves forward doesn't necessarily mean we're going to spend it. Again, this year there's one vehicle that's being purchased because of the ongoing concerns about the fleet. So we're only purchasing one vehicle.
So then, once you hit, what would be a reasonable number for a jet ski, then you take that out of the capital?
No, I think you leave
Plan?
it in the capital plan, but just because something's in the capital plan, the way I've described the capital plan, it's like a radar screen. Year zero is at the center, the year we're in is the center of the radar screen. There may stuff sit in the capital plan in year three for years and years and years, not move forward to year two because we realize that equipment's not necessary. But at least it's in the capital plan. When it comes time, then we can start to inch it forward toward the center of our radar screen.
So wouldn't we just title it as reserve,
We can,
just like we would for a fire truck or anything
Right.
else?
we can do that as well.
I think it might eliminate some confusion. Because if that's what it is, let's call it what it is.
That's the way that it was presented.
Get reinforced dais up here. Sorry, go ahead.
I'm skipping back up to the top. Just one other quick question. The 150, I know we're down 26% on the streets bridge lighting. Could you kind of elaborate a little bit on that one again? What we're using that for this year?
This is actually money that the city had previously received from the state
Okay.
that we're still trying to clarify
Okay.
from the state, but we want to classify it as bridge light. We don't want to spend it on other lights and all of a sudden the state say, wait a minute, you spent that money, you
Right.
got the money for the bridge lights and now you're spending it somewhere else. So it's just showing, and we'll get that clarified with the state. We'll get the lighting contract with the state clarified, but that's what that money is reserved for, is the FDOT lighting.
Okay, yeah, because as I said, the lights are out on the bridge now.
Correct, and that's part of our contention to FDOT that the cost, we believe those lights are past their useful life and they actually need to be replaced. And that should not fall on the city to replace those FDOT lights. I think Mr. Freeman has discovered they're like 20 to 30 years old. So that's why we've said we're not interested in the lighting agreement, which is strictly funding us for maintenance because you can't maintain those lights.
Right. Thank
We
you.
replaced those lights a few years ago, I thought, on the bridge.
Yeah.
Right. Not only that, but over a year ago, we talked about getting out of that whole deal.
Right, we were supposed to get out of the
We've been wanting out of that deal.
Right, well, the lighting, the FDOT agreement for lighting is different than the FDOT agreement for right-of-way maintenance. We are not in the FDOT right-of-way maintenance agreement. That has not been revisited, so we do not maintain FDOT rights-of-way. So if residents have concerns along A1A or Moody about the grass not being cut, they have to contact FDOT.
When I pulled that contract a few years ago, that was one of the questions I sent to Drew and posed to Bill was the useful life of the light, the pole. I looked it up. And they said in our environment, an average of 25 to 30 years. And that's where we're at with it.
We don't want to mistakenly spend the money on something, then have the state come back.
Right.
But that, we have that money, just state tell us what it's appropriate to spend it on with regard to lighting.
Okay. What other questions or comments, Commissioner Cunningham? On this
No.
page? None? Commissioner Santori?
Are we gonna circle back to the police lobby and talk about?
Let's do that.
Okay, just making sure.
Go ahead.
I mean, I imagine if we do approve it today in the budget, it's gonna still come before us to review whether,
Absolutely. All these projects that cost $35,000 or more, staff isn't going to go off and do them themselves. All this stuff will come back to you with what the scope is, what the cost is, whether it's going to be done by internal staff or whether we're going to go out for bids for it.
All right, other questions on this? Good questions I had. All right, so we talked about the police station rehab. What about the fire station rehab? 50,000. What is that?
I know we've been in the process of converting the training room, and I think there's other improvements in the office space, making more efficient use of what is currently the chief's office and the deputy chief's office.
You got any more detail on that? Chief, what do you know?
And again, these are projects that are proposed, and as Commissioner Santori said, they would come back to you.
Right. It's just, you know, more or less education transparency is, what is that
I would
50,000 going for?
distinctly oppose the term transparency. This is a project to make improvements that, where the process will determine what the extent of them are. The money is asked to be budgeted, but we're not approving the project tonight. You're just approving the budget.
How do you approve a budget when you don't know what it's for?
Okay, this is for fire station improvements, which we'll explain here. But I think
That's where the transparency comes in. How do I say I'm approving $50,000 for what? We have no information.
Okay. All right, I'll let the chief explain.
Nate Cordier, Interim Fire Chief. Currently trying to make better use of the space in the building. Some projects that were underway when I got here. They converted an seldom used training room into what's going to be a crew office where they're able to complete their reports, have a computer room, and related documents. They've also been looking to shore up the bunk rooms. Right now they kind of have accordion dividers in between the bunk rooms for the firefighters. One of the projects was getting one of the bunk rooms out of the bay. It was out in the apparatus bay, a storeroom. We brought that into the station, and also looking to kind of separate those bunks so they have some privacy, and also make better use of the office space.
Isn't the training room the one that you guys just redid?
That was just redone. There's still some stuff to finish in there, and then the bunk rooms and the front offices are the main projects that still need to be completed.
Got it. All right, questions about that one?
Also, yeah, because we approved something last year
Right, for the training room.
for the kitchen and the lounging area, and
There's also work that needs to be done in the bathrooms as well.
Commissioner Santori.
Yeah, I did a walkthrough with Chief Fiveash while she was still here, and a lot of the improvements that she was suggesting made sense. And I'd like to see them come forward at least for us to evaluate. So I'm okay with
Right.
the current, but
Were any of those suggestions changing what we just changed?
the office, the main lobby area where the clerk or someone sits there, I know they wanted to redo that, and also the chief's office, I believe, is a pretty large room, and I think they were trying to.
That's what's going to be the crew
utilize
office and
more.
computer room. It was just temporary office space.
Mm-hmm.
So you kind of consolidate the crew in there, and then change it back to that front area. Change that more into a deputy chief's office and a fire chief's office.
All right, what other questions y'all got on that one? All right, good information, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Restamping crosswalks, city manager, I guess this is one we just need to retitle or something?
Correct. If there's other projects that you would rather have priority, which based upon the discussion at the last CRA Executive Board, the interest is more in the bathrooms and completing the downtown parking lots.
Is that still where everybody is on that? Okay, so that's what I'm hearing.
Yep.
And so facilities, painting buildings, we just got done a bunch of those projects, so I'm curious which buildings are we going after?
These, I believe, and Mr. Whitlam can confirm, I believe these are the buildings at the Wickline campus, repainting the Wickline School, the Wickline Center, and the library.
We just did that, didn't we?
Protective coating on the way. We had that whole big grant.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, can we get some more information on it, because
Larry was still, during that, the library wasn't named after that, and Commissioner Neely was commissioner, because I remember the discussion was that they were just gonna retake the one or two walls that they were, sealing for the water intrusion, and the decision was made to repaint the whole thing. And I don't know, maybe it's because of the dark colors of their painting in the sunlight, maybe a different choice of color that doesn't fade as much, I don't know.
yeah. Well,
I don't know that.
Right. Do we
Doesn't
know
look good
any-
right now, that's for sure.
What?
Doesn't look good right now. Like
Yeah, I guess if there's any way you could get us some more information on that one,
Okay.
'cause that might still be under warranty. It was painted recently, and
I think there were a few of the walls, as Ms. Overstreet said, that were painted.
yeah, and I don't know if it's a requested color change, but it just seems like I remember us redoing that. Chris Conklin was the one who painted it, and that wasn't long ago.
Bill might know. Bill
But yeah, I guess maybe after this, if you can send us a follow-up email with that information.
Yeah. Did you want to comment, Eric or Mr. Freeman?
Librarian, you were here for all that, right? Yeah. Yeah. So she might be able to give us some insight too.
Okay. Last year, when the repairs, yeah, that's fine. Last year when the repairs were done to the exterior of the building, because we had the water intrusion coming in after the hurricanes, the east wall was completely stripped. It was supposedly sealed at that time, and they were doing some work on the front of the building, but the entire building was not painted at that time, because at the time that that project was going on, we came to you and said they wanted to have a change order in order to paint the entire building at the time. And you all said we would prefer to have that as a separate come to us for the paint job. So that went into this year's budget. It's current right now, being done obviously because it looks like work in progress. That's what it looks like.
well said. Like a lever.
Yeah, so I can't speak to the quality of the paint job. The dark blue color happened when I was assistant librarian to Christine, and that was an in-house job at that time. And then we had the sealing of the footing of the building. They just matched the color around the bottom. It's been an ongoing process. I'm hoping that this paint job sticks. And it appears that they're going to work on the one place that still has a leak that's going to be fixed. And our exterior will be painted. So I believe this this doesn't have to do with the library painting. Right. This is the other two buildings within the Wickline complex, and I will let you take it from there.
Eric Whitlaw, Facilities Director. So at my conversations with Mr. Freeman and Mr. Martin, when I first joined the city, was we forecasted $25,000 a year ongoing each year to upgrade the exterior coating of all of our buildings. There's another line item for the columns at the Wickline that we spoke on to yesterday. We have a lot of spalling going on between the Wickline building and the Wickline Community Center, and our plan was to basically pick the worst building and just keep moving forward each year, pick a building, seal it, and move forward so we basically can harden these buildings correctly and move forward with also an overall color scheme, hopefully, for the city. And with the Wickline Park, what we're doing with the library, if we can continue that with the Wickline Community Center, the Wickline building, and then continue to work outward from there to the police departments, fire departments, facility buildings, and basically just improve the overall aesthetics of the building, as well as what we've been trying to do with the parks and grounds. Thank you.
All right, questions for facilities? Don't go anywhere yet, though. My next question, the line below it is Wickline Center improvements, which is not the columns, but the 18,250. What was that for?
I know there's been overall plan. I don't know if I can speak too much. I know there's plans to basically turn that building to a almost like command center for inside. And I know that Patty and Mr. Freeman, we've had conversations about what we're going to do to the inside. We want to do things to the kitchen because, right, I mean, it's supposed to be a warming kitchen, but right now there's no equipment. We couldn't use it if we needed to. There's been talk about possibly putting a shower in. I don't have a full scope of work for that yet. We haven't formalized that.
These were part of the improvements that were planned to make use of that as a community center once the Salty Church left, that we could rent it out for events, and to what extent, what sort of upgrades do we want? Do we want it to be a catering, a warming oven? Do you want it to be a full-blown kitchen, and things like that? And I know Mr. Gillen was working with Penny and Miss Ryan to figure out what do we need to do to make that an attractive facility to rent and turn it into productive or a profit center for the city.
So we'll need more information on that, is what it sounds like.
Yeah, it depends on how, and what we'll do is we'll get the information provided. I know Mr. Gillen's talked to some local contractors about, if you want to put a stove in, what sort of hood do you need? What sort of refrigeration do we want to have? But that was, from what I understand, the general intent, once we got rid of the Salty Church, that would become a event space or a gathering center for people that wanted to rent it out for a variety of purposes.
Right. The only concern I had is that money's budgeted in the capital plan for this year. We just don't know what it's going to be used for. So we would need to have some type of information on that. And I don't really know what, it's just information we're going to need, because I don't know what y'all mean by turning it into a command center, because it's next door to
The talk
our other
was
two
that,
command centers.
I'm sorry?
Or we have, that is within walking distance of fire department and police department.
And right now, neither one of those are suitable to serve as an incident command post during an event. With regard to the security, the changes that we're
No, which one
proposing.
doesn't? Be
So
right at
the-
the water's edge.
The discussion, the preliminary discussion was, could that become, we don't want to call it an EOC or an emergency operations center. That's the sheriff's responsibility, or the county's responsibility. This would be our local incident command post that we could operate out of the flood zone that the police and the fire station are in, that if we need to set up there for an extended period of time, you could use that facility. And what is it going to require with a generator, with things like that?
Does it need pushed back into another year or something, or is that something y'all want to try to do this year? I guess if it's something y'all want to try to do this year, we would just need the information.
No, the first thing is to try and make it so that it's a rentable space for civic groups or private groups. So what do we need to do with that, whether it's buy a commercial refrigerator, buy a warming oven? Again, all of that is part of what is the general intent that you want to do with the Wickline Center. Do we just want to leave it empty and just use it for city events? But that's, what is your desire for the use of the Wickline Center?
So we got to get that on an agenda then, to decide that.
Okay.
I mean, I guess I'm worried we're putting the cart before the horse on that one. We're budgeting 18,000 some odd dollars, but we don't know what we're going to do with it.
We know the intent. We know the intent is to make Wickline Center rentable, functionable.
But that's only one thing I've heard. The other thing I've heard is we're going to turn it into a command center.
I think they want dual duty. And if you had a refrigerator, you could do both.
Refrigerator makes it a command center.
Well, that was if we wanted to. Do we want to put a shower in? If we didn't need to use it as an incident command post, we have showers, we have a kitchen, we can warm up food, but at the same time, if we don't have an incident and you want to rent it for a wedding, we've upgraded the flooring, they could cater, it could have dual purpose.
You mentioned flooring. That thing needs a buffer, like.
We did.
We just did.
Oh, nice.
It looks 100% better.
That's really good to hear.
I think we leave it and let's progress with the year. It's got to come before us before they can do anything. We have to say, yes, we want you to do this.
For $18,000?
Oh, you don't for 18, but
Yeah. But I think the
Any
point is,
company.
it's clear, and
We're going to do with the
and to be
money.
honest with you, this is a lot of times why we ask for questions before the budget. So we can have prepared responses instead of, well, what about this and what about that? So that's why the questions ahead of the budget time are very helpful. But yes, before we do anything with the city facility, absolutely, we're just not going to go off and do something like that, even though it's in the spending authority. But we'll come back and say, okay, what do you want to do?
That's all I got on this page. You guys got any more questions on 25? All right, page 26. All right, city manager.
The only two items on this page are the equipment, the upgrades for the IT, now that we're splitting off from the county, as well as the proposed camera purchase, which we've talked about before, is using the camera reserves that's been accumulating.
All right, questions or comments on this page?
What is NEE?
New equipment. It's a misspelling.
I thought that you said that that $115,000 was already in there. It was $20,000 last year.
Right. We budgeted $20,000 that went into the reserve, and now the reserve is accumulated to the point that we can now spend the reserve of the $115,000 for the cameras.
I'll be coming before you on September.
Oh my God.
So the cameras is money that was already budgeted, put in reserves, and is just coming back.
Correct.
This is not money, and this is for just anybody streaming this. It's not money that is coming up this year you're going to have to pay for, essentially. Because that money was already budgeted when this was approved, oh geez, years ago. What was it, 3 years ago? Something like that? And this was before the term flock cameras was even invented. It was, we need to have some type of security in our parks, and that's why we had them. I don't know about the other cameras that everybody, that's all the buzz, but this is for keeping people safe in parks and pier and stuff like that. Any other questions on this page? Commissioner Santori?
Yeah, Mr. Impson, can you describe some of the $254,000 new equipment charges are going to be?
Yes, sir. So all of our Fortinet switches in the city are coming up to the end of their service life in 27. So we will be replacing all those, getting new service agreements with everything.
What service agreement?
Fortinet switches, it's what your internet runs through with each building.
Like the hub, routers? You're talking a Fisher Price internet guy, right?
Sorry, it's a router, yes.
Apparently the really expensive hub and router.
Extremely.
So AP switches, all the hardware related to that. And are you doing this in-house, or are we going to outsource it?
No, we're just ordering the switches and replacing them. They'll come pre-configured from Fortinet and plug and play.
I'm sorry, what brand?
Fortinet.
Okay, and can you explain a little bit, because I don't know if the other commissioners may know, and even to me this dollar sign seems high, is why we have to use a company like Fortinet and not a, Ubiquity or Unify system that's a lot cheaper?
So Fortinet service comes with all the management. It comes with the cloud software to manage all the devices in the city, and it comes with a service level. So, for instance, the other day the switch went out at fire department. I ordered that switch at 5 p.m. and it came in the next morning.
Right, and can you talk a little bit about some of the requirements as a government agency, like what equipment we are allowed and not allowed to use?
So if any of that equipment goes past the service level, it's no longer supported with patches, and it can be vulnerable to cybersecurity attacks. Thanks, sir.
So that's stuff we gotta go with. You can't go with the cheaper stuff?
From my understanding, and Mr. Impson could probably describe it better than I can, it's, you have to use hardware that's either certified or allowed for use in U.S. government type of municipality, because
Fortinet is one of the cheapest, but
right, and I have looked into that before and recognized that name. Whereas other systems could be vulnerable, or there could be hidden backdoors that could be exploited later.
All right. Commissioner Sprelli.
Well, despite what he said last night, it sounds like RJ is the internet guy.
Right.
Is this gonna be every year for this? Okay. How often?
5 to 6 years, depending on the piece of equipment.
Yeah. Gotta start an IT reserve like the fire truck. I know. These things aren't cheap. Oh, yes.
Either a large commercial or two smaller residential style, well, not power, but residential style. The ice maker, the quotes on that were crazy. an AED, and this was written before we got that grant from the resident who has been passed. So maybe you need to get an AED out of that. A chest freezer, fold-away beds and linens for if it's part of, like our emergency area, I don't know, what do you call it?
Incident Command Post,
I mean,
ICP.
and clean and paint the interior. And I also have stripping and waxing the floors on it, but Eric was able to find that money in this year's budget. So that's another, come out and stripping the floor. And then I think possibly in next year's or further out in the capital to replace those floors over there. The people who did them said, yeah, we can make them look better, but we don't have a lot of life left in them. Usually they're from the 70s. So.
Kudos to the maintenance supervisor for hitting those floors. Those things were so bad. And were you there when they did it? Was they just took a black pad to it and just went to town?
They had to strip it all the way down to the VCT base, and then it took them about 3 days.
I bet it looks good though.
We added maybe a year or two life to it, but that floor is end of life.
Also put in there, and I think it's further out a couple of years later, was a generator that would operate both the community center and the building department and possibly the library, depends on the, and that's something, I think you were hoping to shoot for to see if we get a grant for that.
Right.
The big expense of that is, the generator's expensive, but the concrete and then the switches for each building and the wiring and, yeah, so it adds up there, but that's, you know, now you can build a new city hall, maybe that's that one.
All right. So with that new information, did y'all have any thoughts about $20,000 on fridge ice maker, freezers? Y'all feel that is the direction that you want to go with that building?
I mean, if that could allow us to rent it out and get some, monetary value out of it, then I'm for it, but definitely like this.
It does not have any of that in there now, correct? I thought it had fridges. And there's no refrigeration in there? Okay.
At least in there, since it's commercial, you'd have to have the vent hood, insurance costs, and people renting it, and it doesn't make sense to go that far.
Is there a 3-compartment sink in there?
There is a two compartment.
I'm gonna have to look at that.
And another use that Ms. Overstreet has coordinated is that is going to be for the polling place for the community. So this type of equipment can support the poll workers during the week-long early voting on voting days and things like that. So that's going to become the new, Ms. Overstreet has worked out an interlocal agreement with the supervisor of elections. So that's where early voting will start taking place next week.
If we make it look nice in there, we can contact PNA and TDC and see if she'll start promoting it for rental space as well.
For weddings or receptions, anything like that, right? You might want to look at the requirements if it has to have a 3-compartment or not. I believe it might. I don't know. And you might want to look at, does it need a grease trap?
Correct. We will comply with our codes.
An under sink grease trap, probably. That's the only affordable option there. All right, so everybody's okay with that item. All right, that was good information. That was what was needed, so we at least know what it's going to. All right, we're back on 26, and are we good with everything there? Okay. All right, 27.
Some questions about, from the mayor about the salary line. We've added one of the documents that we provided to you this evening about the salary breakdown was adding some of the salary contribution for the project manager, who's been managing a lot of the projects. So part of his salary will now be drawn from the CRA dollars. He's been working on the decorative street lamps and other projects around the CRA. So we figured it was appropriate that part of his salary be drawn from the CRA funds. So it's approximately 20, according to the sheet, 20% of his salary will be drawn from the CRA rather than the general fund or the utility funds.
I didn't think you could do that. You can do that?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Even though it's under repairs?
No, this is under salary.
Right, but the salary,
But he's managing the project,
okay,
putting in the new street lamps and,
got it.
so that was the salary line. Again, that is
Oh,
what,
are you talking about page 28?
yeah, 28.
27.
Oh, I'm sorry. We're on 27. Sorry about that. All right, you can see the mayor had a question about what happens if the CRA goes away. Basically, the $363,000 would fall to the city's general fund, and we would lose the county, we would lose the $550,000 that's attributable to the county and the East Flagler Mosquito Control District.
Any questions on 27? All right, so what are you saying about 28?
28, I'm sorry, the,
You're getting confused.
portion of the, all right. Portion of the project manager's salary is now included on the salary line, in addition to Ms. Ryan's. So that leads to that increase. And that results in a similar increase related to, as we're working to resolve the, life insurance issue as well.
Questions on 28?
I just paused there for a second.
Okay.
So the professional services is to redo the city's CRA master plan. Best practices call for that to be done every 5 years, and ours is significantly overdue to do that. So that's a proposed cost to solicit a consultant to redo the city's master plan. And if there's ever any interest in expanding or extending the CRA, this is a critical element. We're not proposing that at this point in time. Who knows what's going to happen with the state, with the CRAs, but this plan would be critical in, if we decide to pursue that, we would go down that path. We would need this document. Travel and training, this actually requires another adjustment, because we're deducting $4,000 from travel and training. There'll be $2,000 for the annual conference and $1,000 for the Florida Redevelopment Academy, which is for professional development for the CRA. So that $4,000 will flow back to the fund reserve of the CRA. And then the final notes, those were from the mayor. Commissioner Sherman had questions about the grants, small grants. I know you as sitting as the CRA board have talked about it. The CRA advisory board has asked that basically the large development grants be increased for bigger ticket, more substantial improvements throughout the CRA, perhaps as Commissioner Cunningham was referring to, like the blight or the areas, the private owned areas. So they upgraded the large grants. We added more money to the large grants and reduced the money in the small grants.
All right, questions on page 28?
The very last line, that you're transferring almost $1 million out of the CRA to the capital fund?
Correct. Those are the projects that we talked about in the capital fund. Those were the crosswalks, the Veterans Park, the street lamps, and the parking lots. Parking lots, lamp replacement, stamp the crosswalks, which is going to be reprogrammed for other parking lot improvements, most likely focusing on the bathrooms and also the wayfinding signage. So those projects total the $985,000.
Good.
All right. Commissioner Santori.
Yeah, so looking at the salary item at the top, which says the budget for 121,000, but the packet of documents you handed me, and maybe I'm referencing the incorrect area, but it says 5391 fund expense salary, and I'm seeing 25-26 budgeted as 604,000. Is that an error? What am I looking at?
Yeah, I guess I'm not quite following what,
I'm on, well, this is, page 19 out of 27. Page 19 out of 27. This is the separate packet that I requested yesterday that you handed me today.
the year-to-date?
Let's see.
Yeah, that looks funny.
I guess we're not clear on what document you're looking at?
What you gave us today.
Okay.
Page 19.
Yes.
Okay, you're in,
Hey.
you're in utility fund, not CRA,
CRA is page 10.
page 10.
Okay, thank you.
Right here.
We didn't even have time to look at this. It's ridiculous.
Take that back, thank you.
Did that get your answer? All right, what other questions we got on page 28? Or 19, or whatever Commissioner Santori was looking at. All right, for discussion, I'm gonna bring up small redevelopment grants. I am of the opinion that they need eliminated. If you look at what we have approved, again, this is something that I think is missing the mark. We are not solving blight by having those small grants in place. The folks that have done the jobs that the small grants have covered, those are not folks that would not have done it anyways. That's my opinion. I just wanted to bring it up for discussion. Now, when you look at the large grants that have those are for pretty meaningful upgrades, and I'm tracking off the history of what we've approved and, what has been done. So, do you buy, a section of white picket fence for somebody that was going to do it anyways and some solar lights, or do you allow a business to do a significant expansion? I just want to bring it up for discussion. I am not for the small grants. I think all that money would be better spent in the big ones.
That's kind of why I brought it up. I mean, I think I could be wrong. We had Sunblows was our really big one that we approved as
Golden Lion.
Golden Lion. Yeah, for the Next Door Bistro, right?
Yeah, both Lion and Bistro.
So, I mean, I'd like to see, again, to pursue more of those. I mean, I'm not trying to take away from a small grant, but I think, again, we're looking for some big ticket items to really, spruce this area up, and I think that would be my intent, and that's kind of why I brought that question up to you, is just that, because, like, we see a lot of small ones coming, it's like solar lights and things like, I mean, like, I'm not going to, over by the ice cream parlor, right, there's that house that's like 10 different colors. It'd be great to, I take my little one there all the time to go get ice cream, and it's like, man, that'd be a great project to see what we can do to, of course, those people have to be willing to do it, but there's some.
Well, if you want to make it, you can take the $10,000 in the small grants, add it to the large grants, which would give you $90,000, and that's 3 large projects at $30,000 if you really want to go with the big tickets, or you can break it down into 6 $15,000 grants if you make that $90,000.
I'd like to see it go up to 90 personally. As to how we split that, I don't know what the others up here think, but
I mean, based off what comes in.
Well, I was going to say, why do we have small versus large? I mean, I'm sure there's a definition somewhere along the lines.
Well, they
I
have
can't look at
differences in the threshold of the match and how much money you can get.
They're
The
not
small ones, I don't believe have any match to a certain amount, right? Yeah, so it's just
Yeah, that's
money.
No, okay. All large.
Well,
There's gotta be some skin in the game. There's no matching?
that's why it's
No.
been a thorn in my side for 10 years. But
Okay.
any other thoughts on that? Opposing my view, Commissioner Spradley. You like to counter it?
As I'm sitting here listening, my view is shifting. What I was going to say before Commissioner Sherman echoed some of what Commissioner Cooley was saying and Commissioner King or Mayor King spoke up, I was going to say, all right, with the new budget, now you've got an 8-to-1 ratio of large to small. You know, you're cutting the small grant in half. Let's see if there are any worthy small grant projects this year before 86ing it, so to speak. Maybe I shouldn't say that, before getting rid of it. But as I think further about it, you know, over 3.5 years of listening to these small grants that have come in, I'm having difficulty thinking of any of them that are worthy. And I do, you know, comes up over and over again, solar lights, and things such as that. So maybe I'm changing my view to that of those that I'm hearing, which is go ahead and you budget it off for the large grants.
Well, and keep in mind, it'd just be for the year.
Yeah.
If, let's say, during the year, the CRA director gets some really good, you know, small grants, and, you know, it could just be, hey, if there's any way to hold off on it a year, because, you know, if it's legit, they were probably holding off on it for the last 10 years, and, you know, then it can always change, and, you know, that could be something our CRA director can keep her ear to the ground and, you know, say, we missed this because of that. But if you just look at the property values in CRA, you know, what they're worth, so your property owners have to be in a particular position to own these properties, majority. I'm kind of like generalizing things, but you would be hard pressed to convince me that you can't afford a new front door to your $900,000 building. I'm not the guy to try to sell that to, because I'm going to tell you no. But
I would if I can get it for free.
that's that's where I have the pain point in it. But again, that's just my opinion. It could be too brash, maybe. I don't know, Mayor.
I think it should go this year, move the 10 from small to couple it with the 80 from the large. Keep track of the requests that come in, and if there are any, let us know for future. But if they're a non-matching grant, I've got a problem with that. I didn't realize that was happening.
Yeah, it's not matching up to a certain dollar amount. I don't have it in front of me, but
I'm sorry, there's got to be.
CRA director, what's terms?
On the large grants, you could actually break that down further, that maybe instead of three $30,000 grants, you have 4 $15,000 grants and then 2 $30,000. I mean, you could break as you see, like you said, as development or applications come in. But again, if you change the requirements like the small grant, so.
We don't have to predefine that ahead of time, do we? That there's 4
When we put the applications, it depends on how we have to now redesign the applications for that.
Well, you're budgeting what your total, we'll call it a piggy bank is, for lack of a better term, of funds you can give away. And then as presented, you can then decide what tier that would qualify for, right? Yeah. But the fund is what we got to address now, because we would have to separate the small and the large fund. CRA director, what you got?
Well, just diving deep into some of the discussion that you're having. For the large grants, how it's based right now is the project has to be at minimum $100,000. Right.
For large?
For the large.
Which would be a business project.
Right. And then for the small, it's 100% reimbursement if the cost is $1,000 or under. So your front door, possible. And then there's a sliding scale up to 5.
And you could change the threshold for the large grants if $100,000 would be too onerous. Maybe you say it's got to be 80,000 or 75,000 or something
50,000.
like that. But
Or even 30. But my gripes with the small ones. Mr. Tori.
So, I mean, I lean in support of the small one just because of what I've seen at Mr. Tansred's business. I know he came in as a new business owner, and I'm not sure how helpful that small business loan or grant was for him, because that seemed like a pretty big undertaking that he did. And, you know, I'm not sure, I would like to hear from you, Ms. Ryan, to hear, do you think the small grants are beneficial and should remain or not?
In my experience, we've only approved the small grants. You know, no large grants have been, turned in.
And do you
For
think the
review.
blight, such as the fence that I'm sure all of us really weren't happy to approve, but do you think those fences would have been repaired without those grants?
It's hard to tell that.
Whether or not they would have is up for debate. Whether or not they could have been is indisputable, as both those property owners are A-OK. So, when you look at what is the intent and purpose of the CRA grants, in that case, it kind of misses the mark a little bit, I think. But if you put all your money in large grants and then in a CRA meeting decide you want to change the parameters, is that something that has to be done at a particular time, or can it be done at any time during the year? Do you know? Is that driven by ordinance?
I don't believe it's by ordinance. I think that's just a policy or resolution that you guys have. And maybe you take out the designation large or small, you put some parameters like a 20,000, again, pick a number, $20,000, and then it comes before you to whether to approve it or not. Maybe somebody only wants what might be currently defined as a small grant, but just call this development incentive grants. Instead of large and small, we can set the threshold. And again, everything has to come before you for approval. So if you don't like it, if it's another storm door and solar lights, say no.
So for budgeting purposes, can we just move all of it into one line and just?
Yeah, I see no reason
Okay.
why you couldn't. And then we'll work with the CRA advisory board and the CRA director. We'll craft new parameters and bring it to you. And if you like them, great. If not, we'll revise them yet again.
All right, I'm hearing consensus on that. Everybody good?
And we do
I think that's the way to go.
time before the beginning of the fiscal year, so that would be ideal.
Right.
Great. Great idea.
Sounds like the way to go. What other discussion we have on 28? That was good though, because that's all a legitimate thing.
Yeah.
All right, 29.
29 is the building code inspection, estimated revenues. Again, we are, with the change in the state statute that allow for exemptions for projects, approximately $7,500 or less, we had reduced our building inspection fees down to 25%, but we've since bumped that back up to 75%. To account for the loss of the small scale permits.
All right, questions or comments? You good, John?
So we're expecting less building permits next year than this year? Is that right?
Whether it's the raw number or the type of permits, correct. We're expecting less revenue. And again, that's contingent upon what happens with Veranda Bay or Summertown, or if that project takes off. But they haven't even come forward for site plan approval yet.
Wasn't some of the impact fees estimates based on Summertown and Veranda Bay?
Correct.
But yet the building permits are going down. So anything less than 7,500, you don't have to get a building permit, right?
Correct.
I'm thinking houseless.
questions or comments on this page? All right, page 30.
Again, several questions from the mayor related to the salary, FICA, life and health insurance. And then moving down to contractual services. And you gotta flip the page here. What's that?
This is where we added the two code enforcement.
Oh, right. This is, a lot of these were related to the transition from the code enforcement officers from planning and zoning to the building department. They are also going to be undertaking, under the direction of Mr. Urquhart, the fire code inspections as well. So that impacts the travel and training line as well. Contractual services was the associated IT costs as well as the code enforcement legal costs. Now that code enforcement is over there, same thing with telecommunications. The Power Board and the code enforcement officers are transitioning to tablets, much like you have, and the commission transitioned to tablets. So that also includes the monthly fees. Utility services, we've shifted some of the utility costs to the building department. That accounts for that increase, the building code inspection. Rentals and leases, that's copy machines. Membership dues and subscriptions is part of the transition from the code enforcement officers so they can maintain their professional certification through the state, and postage is directly related to code enforcement activities.
All right, questions on this page? Did you cover travel training?
Correct, that's for a variety of training to train the code inspectors and fire code, as well as our current building inspectors, and continuing the professional development of the building inspectors as well.
So this is really, just for clarity, it's more training than travel,
Correct.
right? Because that's a big increase.
Right.
And especially if you look over 24, 25 activity.
And I'm not sure, Mr. Urquhart may be able to give some insight into what exactly the training costs. I know that some of it's online, so you may not incur travel expenses, but at the same time, you have the online courses and the professional development associated with it.
Right. So, chief billing official, are they going to have time to do any code enforcement? Because I think they're going to spend the year in training.
Excuse me. As far as the training, it involves 5 courses is for the fire inspector. One of them, Gary Heinbar, we're going to utilize the training on sending him over to the Florida State Fire College. And then once those 5 courses are done, he'll take a test, and upon completion of the test, and we'll do the training in the field. John Gifford, the training for him will be taking him from face level 1 to go to face level 2 as far as code enforcement. So that's the training for him. I got training for John Loriano, who's a deputy code official. His training will be transitioning into as far as a building code administrator, and that involves Contractors Institute. That's online. So, but we'll cover everything as far as code enforcement, as well as the fire inspections. We've already increased another 15 fire inspections today. So, we
I got one.
we won't
target it.
No, it's because little by little we're chiseling away. We went from a 220, now we have 110. So we're already halfway there, and that's just in a month and a half. So we're going to keep on going. Everybody is backup role to help each other out. So as far as code enforcement, as far as building inspections, as far as fire inspections, they're all on the same team now. So we'll make sure everything's covered.
That's a big positive change right there.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, good info.
Thank you, sir.
All right, questions or comments on 30? Page 31.
this is a pier. The only question from the mayor was about the pier rental, and that is actually the Funky Pelican restaurant.
Any questions or comments on this page?
So Funky Pelican pays us, the city, $150,000 this year and $144,000 next year. I know we just did a long-term lease with them.
Correct, that's on their revenues over $1 million. Yeah, monthly rent and profit sharing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the 150, Commissioner Cunningham, that was what they budgeted. Actual in 24-25 was 145 in that first column there. So kind of budgeting flat is what it looks like. And there, I would assume there's probably a year-to-date number on that as well, where you'd be able to see if it was on track going up or down. I know most businesses right now are flat, so that would make sense. Any other questions or comments on 31? Commissioner Santori? No? All right, page 32.
$32 are the expenses related to the completion of the pier, with the interest and operating supplies, and the insurance are the key components.
All right, questions or comments on this page?
Actually, come to think of it, I do have a question on the previous page. Sorry.
Commissioner Santori?
With the lease, so just say the pier reopens and the Funky Pelican knocks it out of the park, does 50,000 more in sales, where does that money go to?
It stays in the pier. Pier is an enterprise fund, so all the money generated from that stays in the pier fund. So we could use that for insurance, for other equipment associated with the pier.
I knew you had a question. All right, Commissioner Cunningham, you had a question on page 32.
Yeah, the pier's gonna be brand new. What repairs and maintenance, I mean, I know maintenance, but it's brand new. What repairs will be needed or estimated to be needed?
So that would include, like, if there's any issues in the bathrooms themselves, if there's a broken toilet, sink, whatever, I mean, the showers out there, or outdoor showers, if they need maintenance. It's just day-to-day repairs is what that is. Specifically for the bathrooms over there and...
Yeah, what used to be the bait shop, or, yeah, it's the A-frame facilities, not solely tied to the pier itself.
Yeah, I didn't know the bathroom, I mean, I know it's on part of the pier, but I didn't know it was included with it.
Well, operating supplies, that I assume was for the old bait shop, right? Okay, bathrooms. All right. All right, other questions or comments? All right, page 33.
Let me throw some stuff out about the pier, because again, it's, as it currently stands, based upon the last update we sent, we're looking at, the pier's gonna be open in this fiscal year. So I think we need to give thoughts as to, are we gonna charge admission to the pier? At least you need to start thinking about that. We've talked about overhead casting for fishing and things like that, and the fishing around the pier. So, not that you're gonna solve it tonight, but we need to start thinking about, because that pier opening is gonna happen sooner than later. So we won't, but that'll be additional revenue coming in if we charge for it, and it may not if we don't charge for it. But at least plant that seed in your mind about suddenly we're gonna be having pier operations when we haven't had pier operations for several years.
It does sound like a workshop, because there's many questions built into that. Boy, your workshop schedule's filling up.
It's your workshop schedule.
We're gonna have a busy fall. Yeah. All right, questions on page 32. But we do have a consensus to workshop these topics that are about peer. It does need talked about.
Is this a one-time depreciation expense, or is it gonna be ongoing?
Ongoing. And then as the pier is finished, that's when you're really gonna start to see the depreciation increase. So, and just to kind of give you an overall view of like how these funds will work. So if we have more revenue coming in than expenses, we have to balance the budget regardless. So if we have more revenue coming in than expenses, any money that we make will go into a fund balance. So as depreciation increases, we have to, of course, pay for the depreciation, so that will come out of fund balance in order to support that.
All right.
The pier fund is,
How do you depreciate something you got without a charge, though? We didn't buy the pier,
because we own it.
So what it,
but we're gonna depreciate it out?
Yeah.
Vehicles.
right, because until the asset is fully paid for, it sits on our balance sheet, right? Which is not what you're looking at here. That's a total other set of records. So as the expense occurs for that project, we've got it sitting on the balance sheet. Once it's done, you have to take that expense and realize that expense over the life of the asset. So if it's a 15-year asset and it's $1 million, then you have to take a 15th of that every year.
Even though it wasn't an expense.
Yeah, we expended the money when we're doing the project. You just don't see it on here. On the income statement, it's sitting on the balance sheet.
You're growing your asset. And then the offset to the asset is over its useful life, it's depreciated. So your net ends up at zero at the end of its useful life. But what is the pier's useful life?
That I'm not too sure.
Okay.
Even if it's paid for with grant money?
See, that's the weird thing.
Yeah.
Appreciating something you got off a grant. I'm not an
One
accountant,
asset to
though.
the city. The city still owns it at the end of the day. You just have zero liability to create the asset.
I'll let y'all fancy people handle that. All right. Page 32, anything else? All right, page 33.
33 is actually, you might as well jump up to page 35, because that's what the, part of that, or no, that's the we're on the miscellaneous revenue right now. Thank you, Ron. Yep. So these are the grant funds that we have and the charges for service, which again, if you jump forward to page 34, again, the rate study that the city completed in February of 25 recommended a 25% increase last year and a 25% increase this year. Staff recommended and you supported no increase last year on the rates, and what we're proposing this year is, instead of the recommended 25% increase, is a 20% increase for the utility rates. This does show it affecting the usage rates, but as we discussed yesterday, that'll be revised in the budget going forward. So you'll see less revenue because we won't have the rates, the usage rates go up similarly.
Where did, since we're looking at 35, the new dollar fee for yard waste come from? I don't remember covering that.
Nope, that's a new charge. We do not charge. We've never charged for yard waste collection. You will see at the August meeting the new proposal from Waste Management, which measures the transfer station, and those costs are going up substantially higher than what we've been paying for the past 3 years. So this minimal charge of $1, we also eliminated the community collections charge that had the general fund supporting the elimination or the collection of the cans along the beach and cans in the city parks. So in an effort to recoup some of that, this has been a free service that's been provided, and on the yard waste collection days, we run the trucks, we pay the crews, and we're getting no revenue from yard waste collection days.
So like I put in my notes to you when I wrote this, when you look at I understand, I'm trying to make sense of it all, and I understand this was the rate study that we were given, but like I said to you in my notes, $20.12 a month comes out to $241.44 a year just in the base fees. And it's just, I get it, but it's just a really hard pill to swallow. If I could get, a little more explanation. I know, we were told years ago when I first came on this board, but the can was kicked down the road. We didn't raise rates. How many years did you guys not raise rates, Eric?
Since I was here?
But did you guys
none?
None.
That was all
I know some of that was that, if Jane was up here, she'd tell you it was because of which makes sense, that we had the recession and things like that.
Well, they hung their hat on that.
Yeah.
Until the wheels fell off.
And I'm not trying to be guilty of, things that happened in the past, but I don't know. If you could give me, again, how all this money is going to be utilized. Like, the dollar, I'm not worried about $1. It's $12 out of that $241 a year. It's like, thinking in my head, you just before you even flip your water on at your house, $140.
And what I truly believe is that at a certain point we will hit, and again, I don't know when it is, but I truly believe that at a certain point we will hit the critical mass when you add the new users of Miranda Bay and Summertown, that these rates will be stabilized, because the added cost is not directly related to the number of users that you're serving. But at this point, yeah, we have to drill the new wells because we were reaching our consumption limit, and that was even without the annexation of Miranda Bay and Summertown. We were past that threshold of our consumptive use permit. So we're drilling the wells, and yes, is it something that we have to do it, and those are the costs incurred. And yeah, is $240? Yes, but again, we didn't have any rates last increase, and when we get the revised rate study, which we're waiting on from Florida Water Association, we'll share that with you. And my expectation is that it will still reinforce more than a 20% rate increase.
So you said I want to go back a second here. You said we drilled the wells, right? And because I remember that was one of the questions I asked you about Miranda Bay, about the water consumption. I know that was always something I was always concerned with, and I was reassured that we had enough water, actually ample water. So I think what we kind of came up with. So did you guys already drill we already have these drills done, right? They're already drilled, and we already spent this money.
Mr. Freeman and Mr. Raymer can correct me. I think well 17 is drilled, and we're planning for well number 18.
And 16 was drilled. And how much do we have money already for that figured out for these well sites? I'm just trying to make sense of this. And
yeah, it's in the enterprise fund capital page, which is page 49. Actually 48. Well number 17 construction is proposed this year for $1.5 million, and well number 18 construction is 3 years out at roughly $2 million.
I have a question. Can impact fees be used for the new wells, or is that considered R&M?
Should be fair game.
I would think so.
I'm sure my initial feeling is yes, you can use it, because if it's associated with growth. I think in the documents that were provided, you show what the balance of the impact fee is for that. Which is how much?
At the end of 24, 25,
Yeah, there's $2.4 million at the projected end of the fiscal year.
Mr. Santori?
I mean, personally, I'd like to see the new rate study complete before we agree to this. But I'd also like to say that I'm a bit disappointed that this rate study came out, I think, last year. Was it presented to the commissioners to look at?
Yeah, I believe that we shared it. Well, I don't think it was, presented for adoption because that's when we made the decision the recommendation that we have a 0% increase last year.
But the rate study showed that you would need a 20 or 25% last year and this year originally, correct?
Correct. Yeah, we're expecting to have the rate study this month. The revised rate study. So you'll have that in time to make any decisions when you adopt the budget.
I'm going to bring up something for discussion here. Let's talk about recycling. So we charge the residents $246 for the recycle program, cardboard, metal, glass. And there's other municipalities that just don't recycle at all. I know the concept of recycling is good. We want to take care of the environment. I get all that. But, you know, when we went down this rabbit hole of recycling, the purpose was to actually reduce our landfill costs. We wanted less material going to the landfill. And the understanding was that fee would end up reducing the overall rate. That hasn't worked like that. Now it's just another fee on top of it. So it's like we are still taking a bunch to the landfill, but now we're paying a premium to recycle. But I don't think that program is, you know, you're basically charging everybody for just the concept of recycling, not because that program is actually reducing that to a meaningful point where they're seeing a cost savings. Does that make sense?
It does.
Poorly worded.
No, it does to me, and actually, you make a good point. And I don't mean to cut anybody off here, but you mentioned how that also works. And what about Big Blue? Where do we stand with the crushed glass? Because I thought, some of these things we were going to do, we were supposed to be, the way it was presented to us years ago, this was supposed to be maybe a revenue stream of making some money. And where do we stand with that? And then I know there was talks with Trex. I don't know wherever some of that went, and that was all supposed to be with this recycling program that we have. And again, like you said, the whole purpose of this was to bring some of this stuff down. I mean, I know it'd be pretty significant that we'd have to have profits on that, but we spent a lot of money on Big Blue and all these other things, and I don't know if we're seeing the returns on those investments like that probably we would have expected.
There's a lot of work going on with the Florida League of Cities on making use of our recycled glass. We are the only supplier for what is becoming a proprietary product, and I will gladly introduce you to when we're down in Hollywood. I'd have to double check with Mr. How much glass did we just ship?
25,000 pounds.
How much?
25,000.
Yeah, we just shipped 25,000 pounds of recycled glass for this proprietary product that is still in development. And so I can probably introduce you to the Florida League of Cities. This is a effort that's being led, patents being led by the Florida League of Cities for a product that could be used throughout the country.
And what was the purchase price of that 25,000 pounds of recycled glass?
I can't remember the exact total, but instead of giving it to them at the $66 rate, we cut it in half because they purchased other purchases of glass from us, so we gave it to them at $33, $33.33 at the 25,000 pounds.
Thank you.
Blue, yeah. Well, Blue's a great it was a great initiative. It kind of got sidetracked as far as the general population there, because it produces a really exciting product like that, you know, the little pebble mulch and stuff. But when it first came out, previous city manager priced it like gold, and it turned the public off. So then everybody that had a huge interest immediately went to no interest, and we haven't rebounded from that because we adjusted a little bit, but we haven't really got the word back out that it's not gold plated anymore and it's more reasonable. But I think when later in the budgeting process, looking at all the fee structure, that's in there, and I've said it every year. I think it needs aggressively looked at.
Do we have a surplus or a stockpile of crushed glass, or did the 25 reduce?
No, so currently we have around 100,000 pounds, 100,000 tons. We do keep bags of the crushed glass within the office because you'll have someone come in, pay their bill, and they'll go, oh, we have the glass, can I just buy it? And they're taking bags. So each week we're probably getting rid of, you know, smaller bags a couple times a week, and they're getting 2, 3, 4 bags at a time. I do have someone that is in Gainesville. He's an architect, and he uses it in his countertops when he builds houses. So he, I think, bought 12 bags recently. It was either 12 or 20. I can't remember. Sorry. So we do have a significant stream on that. I actually just pulled numbers for a resident that was interested in all of our recycling for the last 3 years, so I can provide that to you. I have it on email. And that's for our glass, our cardboard, and our aluminum sales. So I can provide that to you as well.
Interesting.
Yeah, well, the reason why I brought up just the question is this something y'all want to look at all? Or do you want to just keep it status quo?
I won't say another workshop.
Probably. No.
I think it can always stand to be discussed and looked at and reviewed as to what the statistics show and what it brings in versus, you know, the expense, if it's cost effective.
I agree. I mean, information is king. You know, there's some great ideas here, but we need information.
Exactly.
What you'll see at the August meeting is right now we're paying $46 a ton for municipal solid waste, and that is going to go up to $65 a ton.
Mm-hmm.
$35 a ton for yard waste, and then dumpster rentals, which are specialized. But so those are the rates that you'll be seeing, and we've been paying $46 a ton for close to 3 years. But that contract runs out at the end of December, and this will be the going rate for disposal of our, and we're looking at some of the numbers about how our disposal fees are actually going down, or they're not keeping pace with what we actually budgeted, because in all likelihood, the impact that may be attributable to recycling.
Is the tonnage price the same as or in line with other municipalities? Better, worse? Do we know any of that?
This is mirroring the proposed, what they're proposing is what they have approved with Bunnell. And the other option is if you don't want to go there, and Mr. Rodriguez will be able to tell you, okay, we got to haul it to Volusia County or someplace else instead of just down the road to Bunnell. And I'm not sure if that would be cheaper or not. Mr. Rodriguez is more familiar with that than I am.
I'd like to know if it is cheaper to bring it to Volusia, but I know it's quite a ride. But has there been anyone that's popped up since ELS has sold?
Not that I'm aware of. And yeah, they sold Waste Management.
I guess if, and so there's a couple questions, yeah. If you guys could just make a note, send us out some data around the recycling figures that, since you already pulled it. Nothing fancy, just whatever you had already pulled. We don't want to add to that whole public request workload.
I mean, we should be able to easily provide the amount of tonnage that we're collecting for recycling, which in turn would otherwise be charged municipal solid waste. So we can show you that difference.
Yeah, it just needs looked at. We got to see, you know, what is it costing? Is it saving us anything? How does this all work out? Because there was a point that Flagler Beach got rid of recycling altogether and just didn't do it because it didn't make sense.
Well, the other thing that you can consider, which I think we hinted at the discussion before, is you could put it out for bids to go fully private with garbage collection, and you get one of the larger companies in, whether it's Waste Management, FCC, Waste Pro, other ones. You could put it out for bids and see what the appetite is, and the city could submit a bid on behalf, with what our costs are, and see how that compares. If you're looking at strictly a cost savings, now, are you going to get the same level of service that we provide locally? But that becomes the trade-off.
Yeah, then you're at their mercy. But I want to make sure, we are not overcharging our customers because they're the ones paying for it. All right. So we were on 33. And we jumped 35. So do we have any questions or comments on page 33?
Mm-mm.
Okay, 34. All right, and so 35, discussion on the rates.
I think you're interested in just waiting to see what the rate study is, and that'll impact the decision on moving forward with the budget.
Rate study is due in when?
This month.
Okay.
They sent Ms. Nobre and Ms. Allen a additional request for additional information, so they'll have to compile that information and get it back to Florida Rural Water. Yeah, there's a meeting scheduled next week.
Any questions or comments on 35?
Yeah.
Sir?
The stormwater base in the minutes said it hasn't increased. But February of last year, it was raised, the base rate was raised 37% by resolution 2025-08, and another 20% this time, so that's 57% since last February for stormwater base.
So 2025-08 was actually the rates for 24 that we didn't adopt into the budget until February of 25. So they were for that. And we didn't adopt them until that February. And that was when the rate change occurred instead of occurring in October where it usually occurs for the October 1st and then November billing. We didn't adopt it into the resolution until then. And that was for all the base fees, not just stormwater.
Well, regardless, it's 57% higher will be now than it was in February. People are going to flip out. In the rate study you were talking about, that was out a few years ago, I don't think I've seen it. I would like to see it.
Yeah, I can provide that tomorrow. Again, the way that we look at this is this commission has said stormwater is a priority, and the projects are costly.
I think what would help with this is before the rates get adopted, that we have, here's what projects are going to be done this coming year with this money. Does that make sense? Gives.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So if they're gonna pay X more, we front load these projects. Because, Sherm, you and I have been through this a million times. We raise rates and then we end up going in a year with nothing to show for it.
Yeah.
And this goes time and time again. If we front load the projects at the same time these rate studies come out, and there's going to be like small deviations from it, but we got to be able to tell everybody, here's where the money's going. Does that make sense?
I think if you go back and look at the third quarter report that was emailed to you in July 24th, it highlights all the projects that have been completed, that are in progress, or that are moving forward. So that information has already been provided. so we can provide what's proposed, and you can look at the, capital plan. I think we can break out the stormwater, because I think right now that's just, a base amount of $500,000 for stormwater improvements, but once the projects are approved or delineated, they are included in the third quarter report, and the status of those projects is available as well.
Yeah, I just think having a forward-looking, and this helps control some of, because if people don't understand they just know a rate increase is coming. But if we say, here's your rate increase, here's exactly what it's going to pay for, here's why, at least you can latch onto that.
We can have that provided.
I like that.
I agree, it's incredibly important, because we're looked on to, and rightfully so, to shepherd in, getting things like stormwater improvement. And at the same time, we're looked at to keep the rates low, and there is an opportunity to explain why one, is tied into the other. You gotta do both.
Yeah, like a fact sheet.
Yeah.
We just have bullet points that we can just explain and educate.
We've got the stormwater master plan. We'll pull out the projects that are going to be in there, because all that information, we'll at least tell you what of those projects are, but that stormwater master plan is available as well.
Good.
Maybe cut down on a few of the pitchforks. A couple of them. Any other questions or comments on the rate page? Mr. Cunningham?
No.
All right, so we are on page 36.
Yeah.
This is the water treatment plant, and the only questions from the mayor were related to the vehicle repairs, down near the bottom, vehicle repairs and maintenance, and the gasoline and diesel fuel. Again, the gasoline and diesel fuel is because of the ongoing costs associated with gasoline and diesel fuel vehicles. Let's see, we now have, there's an increase of $300 due to mechanic labor.
All right, questions on page 36.
One of the things that we are trying to do that Mr. Rodriguez has worked on is, we do have a mechanic, on staff, and he's gradually being trained and starting to do several repairs on city vehicles that in the past had been shipped out. I believe part of his training that's in this year's budget is to get him certified to do maintenance on public safety vehicles, which requires a higher level of license. But so what we've been doing is sanitation has been being reimbursed by the various departments with that vehicle, so it's kind of operating as an internal service fund. So when they work on facility vehicles, facility in turn reimburses the sanitation department. So once we get this gentleman certified to work on public safety vehicles, fire trucks, and police cars, we should recognize some additional savings as well.
They're going right now, our police vehicles are going out the same place that does all the sheriff vehicles, right? They all go to the same spot? Yeah. All right, questions on 36? The question I had was about professional services. This line has jumped around tremendously, and I'm just trying to get some insight on it, just of what it is. So 24-25 was $2,000. Then last year's budget, 190, and this year we're at 50. Y'all got some insight on that?
So what's included in the 190 for this year was $150,000 for a service to prepare for the consumptive use permit. Maybe Bill can expand on that a little bit more. But that's what makes up 150 of the 190 is for that consumptive use permit.
So what is the 51,425 this year for then? Because in 24-25 we don't spend $2,000 on that line. City engineer.
All right,
So one of the things we have planned for next year is the design of a new 1,000,000-gallon tank at the water treatment plant. So that's what the professional services are. For the design? Yes, for the design. Got it. Wouldn't that be listed out as a capital expenditure? Not under professional services. For the construction, it would be a capital. But not the design.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Good info. Thank you. All right. Other questions on 36? Page 37.
I just want, before we move on, I just want to say we got 2 more payments on the SRF loan for the water plant, and then it'll be officially ours.
Yeah. Let's just pay him now or something.
On page 37, again, this was the salary and overtime and life insurance were part of that transfer because we hired new people at the wastewater treatment plant. That was in the contingency line, and when we moved it over, that's what led to the discrepancy or the difference between those 3 line items, as well as the FICA and Medicare and retirement. But we have not scheduled it yet. We're trying to coordinate it with state officials, but is Mr. Lynn here? Or is,
Yes.
oh, the screw press is up and running, and ground is moving forward with the wastewater treatment plant. We're trying to schedule a late groundbreaking ribbon cutting, but we're trying to schedule it to have some of the state officials come and be a part of it as well, and they're kind of tied up with the primaries and all the election stuff, so we're trying to shoot for something later this month, but it's pretty fascinating, and I think if Mr. Lynn wants to offer any comments on the screw press, because I know that project started, I think, long before most of you were on the board.
The entire time I think I've been elected.
But it's
That's a heck of a location to do a ribbon cutting.
Yeah, I know.
well, what we were trying to do is trying to combine a visit, because they're not going to come back when we're talking specifically like Senator Leak and Representative Greco. They're not going to come for the ribbon cutting for a screw press and the groundbreaking for a wastewater treatment plant. We're trying to work in a visit for those, as well as, just like we did with the Lieutenant Governor a week or so ago, also take him over to the pier to say, listen, this is how the city of Flagler Beach is spending state dollars. And we appreciate that relationship. So we're trying to put that together, but Johnny's been sending us some videos of sludge falling into the trailer. So it's
Well, congratulations, Mr. Cooley. Me and you've been here the longest talking about that. We fired it up Tuesday, so we got some kinks to work out and talking computers. We rented about 12 hours now. The trailer's already half full, so everybody's quite impressed with this thing. Even Miss Donnie from McMahon Construction, I've known him since '87. He said he's very impressed with it. So if you want to get impressed, come out there and see it.
No pun intended.
Yeah, yeah. And that's the good news. We'll talk about the sludge removal if you want to later.
part of what Mr. Lynn and Mr. Freeman were talking about is, and you'll see in the capital plan, you'll see a, what did we call that piece of equipment, Johnny?
Yard dog or
A yard dog or
Yard
something.
spotter.
Yeah, the yard spotter. The problem is that when you place the dumpster, it fills up the front half, and then you got to find a way to move it forward so it starts to fill up the back half. And we're trying to explore other options than a yard spotter, which, as shows in the budget, is over $100,000. And it's like, could we find a local contractor to come by on a weekly or daily basis and pay him a couple $100 to move this? Because how far forward do we have to move it?
Well, just to move it forward, it's not far, a few feet.
But the point is, you gotta get it out of the way.
Right.
And store it so that when Merrill Brothers comes in, you won't have a four-step process. When they come in with the empty one, they wanna drop that, pick up the full one, and take off. So we got one good spot, 'cause it's gotta be level out there, 'cause our asphalt out there is all tore up. But we got one good place to put that
So the
trailer.
challenge is we're gonna be producing more sludge
A lot more sludge.
than originally anticipated, so we'll have to revise the budget before you get that for the sludge hauling cost, because it's doing such an efficient job of producing the sludge that we gotta haul away more than was
Right.
originally anticipated.
And this would be the biggest bump right here. This budget year would be the biggest. We still have 2 big drain beds they gotta clean out, hopefully for the last time. And then we have the old plant that has the weeds in there. That comes back through. So I'm gonna be working on 3 different things at the same time. So this budget year, when you see the sludge removal, that's gonna be a big hit this year. And then it should level out as we go.
There's no market for this, nothing.
No, and actually the state's starting to change
Right.
some of the regulations on how you have to treat it, who can haul it, where
Right.
they can apply it. So again, another possible state mandate that we have to deal
Oh,
with.
that's coming down the pipe, yes. So we know that's coming down.
No
So
pun intended on that either.
yeah. But yeah, y'all welcome to come out and see it. We are quite impressed with how it's working. Really impressed. I mean, we hired a guy about 2 months ago, and he's got the experience. We don't have any experience. He said, "Oh, you're going to be filling up a trailer a week." I said, "At 60 gallons a minute? No way." We've only rented 13 hours, and we're out of 24 tons. That's half full now. And that's just 12 hours. That's half a day, or 24-hour day. So we're going to be moving some sludge.
What's a container? Just a roll-off container?
That's a trailer, 45-foot long trailer.
Hmm.
And that's why we got to have a place to store it when we pull it out, a flat surface to sit on. We can't park it on the grass. With all the construction going on out there, we got one good spot to put it, so it won't be in the way.
So a fifth wheel trailer?
Fifth wheel, right. We'll be there all day tomorrow till 3:30. Well, I've been sending pictures and videos, but the videos are so short because I can't send them through the computer. It won't make it. They had short videos. Yeah. Yeah. And it's really dry. It's a lot drier. I mean, you pick it up with your hand. It's really dry. Yeah. Well, I work there, Seth.
We're gonna take your word for it.
Yeah. Okay.
Good fertilizer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It dressed me real good.
Oh,
And
well, I want
Put it out better than Clark.
Commissioner Cunningham point, that's what some of the ongoing state regulations are, is because the regulations are changing that what could be used for land applications the standards are now being raised higher than what we currently do
Right.
for land applications. So what happens is the stuff goes to the landfill, and there's gonna be more stuff going to the landfill, because the standards for land applications are going to be raised to such a level that a lot of communities won't be able to meet that standard. So the concern is, are they going to stop taking?
Eventually, landfills will stop taking.
Right.
So, but Merrill Brothers, they had a class a couple months ago. I believe Bill went to the class, trying to get everybody around here together and buy some property just for sludge. They do Palm Coast and Ormond Beach, and they'll probably take Benel too. So that's down the future. That's in the future.
But agricultural.
Right. Well, right now it's a Class B. So they want to get it, what they do is make it a Class A, and then Class AA, you can actually sell it as fertilizer.
Because hay fields and sod farms, I mean, you'd have grass growing like crazy with that stuff.
Oh, I
spread
know.
on it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It does grow.
We'll have a chance to talk about this with Mr. Fernandez next week.
Yeah.
Just don't get caught by yourself talking to Mr. Fernandez.
All right, questions on page 37. Page 38.
Questions from the mayor about special and incentive pay. This is the on-call pay for the staff, and then the life and health insurance, again, that's part of the, we hired the staff that you authorized last year. Contractual services, this is the, actually, it's the increased enhanced auto dialer cost that the city employs, the auto dialers. So that's a substantial increase in that. And then telecommunications, again, expanding the cell phone availability for city staff. So those are those 4 lines that the mayor had questions on.
All right, questions on page 38?
Yeah, what are all the professional services? There's one that's 45,000, one that's 68,000. One that's 0.
Those are, with the 3-digit identifier, those are specifically tied to projects, so I'd have to have Ms. Ellen.
Well, Bill may be able to give some more information, but Project 658 is for a SAM grant, Bill?
Yeah, that's the supplemental hurricane that we applied for the, I believe, the $19.5 million with the lift station projects, which half of that will be eligible for forgiveness.
What about the first line?
45,000.
All right, so the 45,000, so we still have several lift stations that are in need of repair, and so we have that, the price reserved for any professional work needed to get those to bid, as well as some of our ongoing, our nighttime, our midnight monitoring that we want to do. We want to isolate some of the lift stations and just look for I&I, so we have some money set aside for those reasons.
All right. What you got there, Commissioner Cunningham?
That's it.
Any other questions on page 38? All right, page 39.
Mayor had questions on, again, professional services. This was for the surveys that we've been doing and for service payments for Beach Village. The Beach Village apartments, printing and binding. Oh, utility bills, right. Operating supplies was meters and other supplies, public works supplies. And the same response for previously with vehicle repairs and maintenance. Increased usage in the age of the fleet and a realistic estimate of the fuel costs.
Can you take us through that professional services again? It's in surveys? I mean, I'm just trying to figure out what the large increase is. You're going from 13,000 to 75,000.
Yeah, so we've needed several surveys for some of the areas. You may recall that we have portions of the southern area of the city between 17th through the South 22nd Street. We are installing some Miami curbs, so there's a lot of surveying that's needed for that. There's been other additional things that we've had surveyed as well. We're doing at Snack Jacks, we're redoing the lift station there, so we've had some surveying for that area, as well as surveying for Palm Harbor for some work we're doing in that area. So there's a lot of surveying that we're doing because there's lift stations associated with those areas that we're getting surveys.
Service payments for Beach Village, what exactly does that entail or mean? Sorry, that's part of the 75.
Right, so the apartments over by Publix, they use our sewer over there, but it's technically Palm Coast, right? So we get, what happens is they bill, but then there's fees associated with that. I'm trying to think of the best way to explain this. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay.
Let me take a look.
So we bill them sewer, and they charge us fees. Okay. Yeah, I know. With you on that.
All right, what other questions we got on page 39?
Printing and binding, that was gonna be reviewed with Public Works, 8,900.
Yeah, that's the printing, utility bills.
Okay. We send out that many utility bills that aren't electronic? Sorry, kind of rhetorical.
About 2,500 a month are not electronic.
Wow, okay, thank you.
Do we charge a fee if it's not electronic?
All right, questions I had was about operating supplies, just kind of what all is now in it, because we went 24, 25, we were at 3,000, now we're at almost 20,000. What has changed? And then the same question is about the equipment less than 5K, those two lines. Just, if you could take us through what all has changed and what is it?
Yeah, what we're showing for operating supplies, that's, water meters and other supplies associated with the water meters, predominantly the water meters, and other supplies with, Public Works, section.
These are the meters that our team orders, not Jennifer's team, and that's to replace current meters if they need to be replaced. So recently, I just had a 4-inch meter go bad in town, and it was $4,858 for 1 meter. A 1.5-inch meter is $928. And then replacing the register tops, which are those little gray things that you see on top of the box, that's the electronic component. Those go bad quite frequently. I've already been working with Ferguson on trying to find an issue, some type of a resolution to the issue that we have. But 25 of those registers are $5,800, and I've replaced 49 this year.
These aren't under warranty?
No.
We just got them.
We got them in 22, and they are not. The ones that we ship out and train them out for warranty, not these meters, those 1.5 and 4-inch, those were still Census that had never been changed out because they were older problem meters that the company could not replace, so it's up to our team to replace them. For the registers, we send them back, and they send us what's called a retro box, and it's kind of this little box that connects to that component, and it causes all meters to read at 50-gallon intervals. So if you have a leak and you flush your toilet, it doesn't register until it hits 50 gallons. So I can't help a customer, and we'll notice it during reads that it's 50 gallons, and we have to replace it. So those retro boxes that they send us that are under warranty, they're no good for us. And I've argued it. Holly Harlan has helped me argue it, and those are the ones that they wanted us to install, so that's what they try to send us, and they just don't work for us.
Hey, is there any way to look up what? I remember when telemetry was here selling us everything under the sun and how great these things were, and they were going to be durable, and they had a warranty on them. I don't know what it was off the top of my head, but I mean, we're having durability problems with these things.
So just that one component, the rest of the meter.
The register toppers.
Yes, just the register top. The rest of the meter itself, we're having no issues with. Few and far between are having to actually replace the entire meter and component itself. It's just that register top that we're having the issues with.
Yeah, if we're having this much trouble with them now, this is only going to get worse.
Yeah, Holly and I talked about it recently this year to try to figure out what we can do. We even looked at trying to change out of the Neptune registers themselves, and really it's what works for our meters, so it would be an entire new presentation to you for replacing things again because they're Neptune meters. And
So telemetry we got is not delivering reliability.
And I've looked at other suppliers to try to figure out if there was someone else that could help us, and Ferguson is the only one that covers this area of the coast. So Florida, I think Georgia, they that supplier is the only one, and I know Ms. Cruz can attest to that, because she has the same issues that I have when it comes to ordering supplies. Yeah. So that's why you see this particular budget has gone up for utility billing specifically because of the need to expand with Veranda Bay, Beach Park Village, the newer little homes and stuff.
Is that, so that was under operating supplies, you said, right?
Correct.
Do you know what was the equipment less than 5K? Or is that something different?
I have mine printed out.
27.
The reason why I ask is just, you know, the amount.
So that actually, the equipment under 5K is for the register tops. I added 20% onto that for the new subdivisions to replace retro boxes as needed.
So operating supplies was meters themselves, right?
Correct.
And those unreliable junk boxes
Yes.
was under the equipment less than 5K?
Yes, and then this also helps assist us. We need to get a new antenna for the meter truck. It's only about $150, but we'll need a new antenna this year. And then they have what's called portable battery packs, and that's when they go out and actually do data logs, like if they're out on the golf course or something. We have one of those for them.
Good info. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And the only other question I had on this page, city manager's reserve for contingencies. And I thought that there is a utility reserve in general. Is this a separate reserve?
No, what this line is for this particular fund, our revenues are exceeding our expenses at this point in time, and in order to balance the budget, we have to add an expense line, and that's what that line is. So if our revenues truly exceed our expenses by the $26 million, that will go into the utility fund reserve.
So why would we have a water rate that puts us in the red?
Good question.
Shouldn't we have a water rate that keeps us even?
Well, the other thing to also keep in mind in here is, it goes back to the whole capital piece, because, I mean, as you can see in our depreciation alone, we had a 20% increase, I'm sorry. And that's just going to keep getting higher and higher as our assets get added on each year. So we have to have money set aside for when that depreciation starts to hit.
Go ahead, sure.
No, can you repeat again what you were saying? Our revenues were outpacing our expenses by how much again? Just want to make sure.
20.
Okay, I just want to make sure I was following that. Thank you.
They said that's expensive. They just say, I guess the question was asked, how long are they?
I remember talking about this.
And someone asked, how long? 25 years, and their response was, the meters are guaranteed by the manufacturers that 25 years is excessive. But maybe the top piece she's talking about isn't considered the better meter. That could be an add-on to it.
Correct. It's 3 components. So
Right.
You have the base, the actual meter, and then the register, and the register is what's going bad, is that mechanical component.
But it's 2 different numbers. You have a meter ID number and then a register ID number for the meter.
This might be something we want to have Drew look at, because this is going to go south, I think. We were promised everything under the sun from that company back when they were in front of us. Yeah. But nevertheless, I definitely think, city attorney probably needs to dig in on this a little bit. This is, far too new a product for us to be having this issue and this type of failure rate. So, any other question? I mean, are y'all okay with where, I have a lot of worry about this, where we're going with the rates and the reserve and all that.
I think if we can get a really good view of the rate study and some kind of an analysis of where stormwater's going, fact sheets of why, to have 26 million in excess revenue just something doesn't sound right to me.
Yeah, we have a rate increase.
That's exactly.
Well, I just need justification.
Part of it, again, is all the construction that we have going on and the loan payments that we're gonna have to make and things like that. So that'll be drawn down on that. So we just need to make sure, again, when we get the rate analysis, that'll demonstrate, how that money is gonna be spent.
Is there any kind of again, I go back to a fact sheet or something that's just very basic that can explain the loan payments for the next year or why this is in existence? And I'm not asking it properly.
We can put something together, of course, in the next
Hope
few
it
weeks.
makes sense. Yeah, that would be good.
Yeah. Yeah, and I was just going to say too, could you guys also, I know we're nearing the end, but maybe when we come back on Monday, could you add this to your notes too, what a healthy, reserve balance would be for, like a municipality our size based on, I know we've got a lot of moving parts, and like you said, we're going to have a lot of draws on this money, but also, going up by, again, I gave you, I think it was like $240 a year just in base fees. How much does that increase this year and how much money is going out? Just some sort of analysis to really ensure that we make the best informed decision when we come to vote on this this rate increase this year. I understand the recommendations that have been put before us and everything, but this 26 million really just, I think it's a glaring thing to everybody up here. So just if we can get some better understanding of those, what that practice is and everything.
And that's, to be honest with you, and a lot of times that's why sometimes it's problematic when you try to compare utility rates between communities, because you never know what's going on behind the scenes, what debt they have, what other projects they have. So sometimes that can be misleading when you compare Community A's water rates to Community B's water rates. But yeah, we'll put that together and have it for you. I'm not sure if we can have it on Monday, but we will have it before you have to consider it for the budget.
Thank you. Yeah.
All right, so we're getting on to 8:30 here. Obviously we're not gonna make it to the end as much as I had hoped we would. Are y'all, I really want to get the public a chance to have some input. Are y'all okay with doing some public comment before we conclude? Yeah, because I thought we'd be, we're being methodical. I thought we'd be through these pages a little faster, but we okay with going a little bit past 8:30 for that? Yeah. Okay, I just wanted to make sure everybody's okay with that. I want to open this up to public comment. Any members of the public just want to talk budget, and if you can, there's a lot of material covered. So if you could try to keep as close to 3 minutes as possible, I'll be pretty lenient because there is a lot. And we do not have many members of the public. So if you can, just jump on up to the lectern, please state your name and your address for the record, and talk budget. I was going to say, I know you wanted.
Thank you, guys. My name's Dave Crabtree. I live at 209 South 5th Street. And I'm sharing my opinion and thoughts, both as a partial resident. We do Airbnb our home, but also as an urban design professional. So I greatly respect what you guys are doing. I work with communities all across the Southeast trying to figure out these same issues. The couple that I would just kind of maybe dig in a little bit on, I'll start with I think a good concern about $40,000 a year, I think you said, for the First Fridays. However, I will say our guests love it. We enjoy it. And then we do spend money in all of the bars and restaurants as a result of it. And whether it's, Funky Pelican to, we go into the little Italian spot and sit at the bar just like everybody else. I understand that was their opinion, but just what I found from our guests, they love it. We promote it and help, share that, hey, this is going on. And so I'll share this anecdotally. We just were doing a study with the city of Daytona Beach Shores, and what they interviewed their community, and their community said, what are the things that you want? More activation. We want our cities acting more like cruise ship directors rather than, yes, you have real jobs to do in terms of like public safety, police, fire. However, what's in the world of widgets, robots, and Amazon Prime taking up everybody's time, people want experiences. And yes, the private industry is here to do that, but the city is also here to facilitate that. And that event is one of those that I think really does it. And in fact, I would say it's not less, it's more. If what we're advising most of our communities, and some of them are doing it in-house, some of them are doing it out-of-house, is they're doubling down on their events. So then they double down on their events. It's not a once, which is amazing because you guys do a monthly event, but it's like, yoga on the lawn. It's, movies on Wednesdays. And some of those are lighter, quicker, cheaper, and no expense. And so, yes, maybe the 40 grand sounds a lot for that event. I don't know the internal of all of that. But I would be thinking about how do you, and you were asking that question, how do you make that money impactful, monetizing it, having sponsorships, having local businesses that are worried about losing their business to it actually be there. Put up a little steam pot if you're a Golden Lion, or put up a drink stand. I don't know if we can sell alcohol in the public park. I'm here for a non-funded suggestion, but if everybody's bringing all their alcohol to the park, where businesses make most of their money, selling alcohol. I don't know, the city doesn't necessarily want to be in the business of selling alcohol, but there might be a vendor that's willing to be doing that. So I would really say, some of what we're seeing across the Southeast is basically people want a city with a heart. That Veterans Park is part of our heart. I would say they want to see activation, and what you guys are doing is a great job of activating it, and I would just say do more of it, but hopefully monetize it and make some money at it. I know that's a hard, want to be sensitive. Our cities are making money versus managing our money. But I would also say, when you invest that money, how's it building your local brand? Is that my 3 minutes?
Well, you can go a little bit past that because we covered a lot of material.
Yeah, anecdotally, 50 grand for the police station to redo lobbies. I have many years' experience in doing public safety architecture and ballistic sub-TED standards. All those really need to be met, and if they don't have any ballistics in their front lobby space, that's not at any level near any type of standard. So, and ballistic materials are pretty expensive, and 50 grand's not that much. So just for what it's worth, anecdotally, if you can have somebody come in and do a space needs study, or if you want it verified beyond some random dude that comes to your meeting like me to tell you that it's worth it, I'm sure you probably could. The more important one to me was the grants, because it really ties to the first part we were talking about, how do we activate our city and continue to grow a city with a heart, which we are, and you are, and thank you for that. I love where you were ending in terms of, hey, maybe just revisiting it. But again, it's doubled down and more, because, essentially those grants are the lifeblood for a CRA, and how they're reinvested is critical. And whether it's, is there a defined tax increment, if it's a TIF district versus a CRA, and kind of building and funneling those funds back into it, because basically it's the people's money that's given back to the people. Because a lot of times they say, well, hey, we're giving away stuff. We're like, well, no, you're giving us our money back as a citizen. But it does incubate growth. Having looked at the grants personally, because I was, hey, I'm in the CRA, and I'm like, okay, I like the small grant. And I'm not suggesting you shouldn't get rid of it, or I'd like to actually where you're heading of like, hey, consolidate them and just figure it out, because it depends on what you need. So I think they should be flexible, they do need to be more targeted, and they need to be focused on what you're truly trying to activate, both in terms of the place and the types of things you're trying to activate. From there, you get a very broad conversation. For example, the city of Daytona Beach Shores is giving matching grants for rent because they have an issue with rent rates and getting businesses to survive. You may not have that issue, but that's another layer of why it needs to be specific really to the needs that you're having and seeing here in the CRA. But what I liked about the small grant was it was $5,000 maximum grant if my memory's right, anything once I got over like $5,000, then it was 50%. And so if I spent $50,000, I could get $5,000. But if I spent $50,000, I still wouldn't be able to get the $100,000 threshold for your large grant, which would give you $15,000. So at $1,000, you matched 1-for-1, and it was 100% matching. So it's like $1,000. So there were some nice things about that, but I don't think it was given its fair assessment in the conversation, because to me, I was thinking like, hey, you know what? I might spend $25,000 on the front of my place, and $5,000 is kind of nice. Maybe it's $50,000 and build a new porch and activate the street frontage. That $5,000 would be nice. So I think digging in too deep right now for you guys, but I think you see where I'm heading is I think the grants have some impact. Lighter, quicker, cheaper is always good, but then the transformational. And I'll leave you with a couple of anecdotes. One, things like farmers markets, I'll tie it back to the Veterans Park. Many studies show 70% or more of that money is coming directly back into the economy by people walking around. And you can find them. You can find multipliers that say for every dollar there's a 3x return. So finding similar communities, I think there's a lot of justification. You could go back to the community and be like, hey, I know we're investing your money here, but it's investing it. We're not spending it. And I think you'll find the same thing with your grants. And so I'll use some small ones. I'll use a large one. The City of Charlotte had a matching $500 million grant for South End. That was for the light rail. That's turned into $8 billion in development and counting. You can go to, and these are out of context in terms of the scale, but you get to the point. Whether it's small-time grants, which we're seeing across our Main Street districts in Central Florida in general, they are showing real impact. So I'll cut it off there. I think you see where I'm heading. Yeah, thank you guys for your time and effort on all of this. I know it's hard, so thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Crabtree. Anyone else for public comment? All right, seeing no one, we'll close public comment. City Manager, we good with Monday? Everything's all wrapped up? Where we need
So
to
we'll
be?
get it, I think it's already been posted, or at least, yeah, we'll get it posted, same time, same place. And then Tuesday night, again, I think I sent you an email, the parking management is Tuesday evening at 5:30 to 8:30 again.
Mm-hmm. All right, with that, look for a motion to adjourn.
Motion adjourned.
We're adjourned.